Between the realm of waking and the kingdom of sleep, there exists a place that is neither and both the dreaming, where stories are born and nightmares dwell, ruled by one of 7 siblings who have existed since before the first conscious thought flickered in the first living mind. But even the endless, fundamental as gravity and inevitable as death, can be pulled from their appointed paths when reality itself cries out in anguish. The Clone Wars had transformed the galaxy into a factory of nightmares. Every night, trillions of beings closed their eyes and saw horrors, loved ones dying in explosions, children fleeing from battle droids, worlds burning under orbital bombardment. The collective unconscious of an entire galaxy screamed in its sleep, and that scream tore through the barriers between realities like a wound that would not heal. In the dream of the endless felt every nightmare as if it were his own. For eons, he had walked through the sleeping minds of countless realities, maintaining the delicate balance between hope and despair, wonder and terror. But this concentrated agony from billions of dreamers simultaneously was unprecedented. The Star Wars galaxy's psychic trauma had become so intense that it pulled at the very fabric of the dreaming, creating a bridge, a connection, an unwilling summons. And so, for the first time in his eternal existence, Dream found himself not observing a reality from the dreaming, but standing physically within it. He materialized on Coruscant during the hour before dawn, when the city planet's endless traffic thinned slightly, and those who could afford sleep finally found it. Dream took form, gradually tall and pale, wrapped in a cloak that seemed woven from shadow and starlight, his eyes containing depths that predated the galaxy itself. His appearance shifted subtly as different beings perceived him, each seeing the aspect of dream and nightmare most relevant to their culture and fears. The dreaming followed him, bleeding into reality at the edges. Where Dream walked, shadows deepened and seemed to move with purpose. Reflections in windows showed scenes that weren't present. The boundary between sleep and waking grew thin and permeable. Dream stood atop a massive tower in the Senate district, observing the city that never truly slept. His senses, attuned to every dreaming mind, felt the nightmares rippling through Coruscant like poison in water. A clone trooper dreaming of his brothers dying beside him, a Twi'lek child dreaming of slavers, a senator dreaming of the Republic's collapse. 10,000 nightmares in this district alone, and billions more across the planet. Such suffering, Dream spoke to the dawn, his voice like wind through abandoned halls. Such fear given form in sleep. This galaxy tears itself apart, and every night the wounds deepen in the dreaming. He extended his awareness, touching the sleeping minds across Coruscant with the gentleness of a practiced hand. Through their dreams, he saw the war's true cost, not just in casualties and destroyed worlds, but in hope slowly dying across an entire civilization. They dreamed of peace, but increasingly those dreams felt like lies their minds told to endure another day. Then Dream felt something else, a current beneath the nightmares, a thread of power that connected living minds across vast distances. The Force. He'd encountered similar concepts in other realities, the collective unconscious, the astral plane, cosmic awareness, but this was unique. The Force bound living beings together, while the dreaming connected sleeping consciousness. 2 different aspects of the same fundamental truth. All minds touch, all thoughts echo. Interesting, Dream murmured, analyzing how the Force and dreaming intersected. Jedi meditation existed in a space between waking and sleeping. Force visions were partially dreams given prophetic weight. The dark side fed on nightmares and fear. They do not understand what they touch when they reach into the Force. They brush against the dreaming and call it prophecy. A presence approached, not physical, but through the dreaming. Someone nearby had fallen asleep, and their consciousness, more sensitive than most, had detected Dream's arrival. The sleeper's mind reached toward him with curiosity tempered by caution. Dream recognized the signature of a trained consciousness, disciplined and focused. A Jedi, perhaps, or someone with similar mental conditioning. He allowed the contact, curious about these Force users who wielded power over minds while suppressing their own dreams and emotions. The contact resolved into a shared dream space, and Dream found himself facing a projection of a bearded human male in traditional robes. Obi-Wan Kenobi, though Dream had no context for the name yet, only that this was a warrior philosopher who carried deep wounds hidden beneath practiced composure. "Who are you?" Obi-Wan's dream self asked, his awareness maintaining coherence even in sleep. "Impressive. I sense something in the Force, but also not of the Force. You're not Sith, but you're certainly not a dream." "On the contrary," Dream replied, his voice echoing in the dream space between them. "I am precisely a dream. I am dream itself, given form and purpose. One of 7 siblings who embody the fundamental aspects of existence. And you, Obi-Wan Kenobi, are more troubled than you allow your waking mind to acknowledge." Obi-Wan's dream self tensed, defensive instincts activating even in sleep. "How do you know my name? What are you doing in my—" He paused, awareness dawning. "This is more than a dream. You're real, aren't you?" "I am the king of dreams and nightmares, the prince of stories, the lord of the dreaming," Dream stated without arrogance, simply fact. "I have existed since the first being slept, and will exist until the last dream fades from the final sleeping mind. I am here because your galaxy's suffering has torn the barriers between your reality and mine." The dream space rippled, and Dream allowed Obi-Wan to see through his eyes the billions of nightmares cascading through Coruscant, the collective trauma of a galaxy at war, the slow erosion of hope in the dreaming minds of countless beings. Obi-Wan's expression shifted to horror, then profound sadness. "The war. We know it takes a toll, but to see it like this..." His voice trailed off. "Every night they suffer again in their sleep. And will continue to suffer," Dream said quietly, "until the war ends or until hope dies entirely. I have walked through countless realities and witnessed infinite conflicts, but never have I felt such concentrated anguish from an entire civilization simultaneously. Your people are drowning in nightmares, Jedi, and your Order's response is to suppress dreams as attachments rather than heal them. The Jedi Code teaches." "I know what the Jedi teach," Dream interrupted, his ancient eyes holding depths of knowledge that predated the Jedi Order by eons. "Suppress emotion, avoid attachment, reject fear. But dreams and emotions are not weaknesses to be excised, they are fundamental to consciousness itself. By denying them, your Order has weakened its ability to understand the very force it claims to serve." Obi-Wan wanted to argue. Dream could sense it, but the Jedi's own suppressed doubts gave him pause. How many times had Obi-Wan questioned the code? How many dreams had he dismissed as distractions rather than insights? "Why are you telling me this?" Obi-Wan finally asked. "Because you are about to wake," Dream replied, "and because the Jedi Council needs to understand what has arrived in their galaxy. I am not your enemy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but neither am I your ally. I serve the dreaming and all who dream. If that aligns with your purposes, we may work together. If not." Dream's expression remained neutral, but the implications hung heavy in the dream space. "I cannot be killed, bound, or controlled by force or weapon. I simply am, as long as dreams exist." The dream began to dissolve as Obi-Wan's consciousness rose toward waking. Dream spoke one final time, his words following the Jedi into awareness. Anakin Skywalker dreams of his wife dying in childbirth. Every night, the same nightmare. And every night, it pushes him closer to choices that will destroy everything you love. The dark side whispers promises in his sleeping mind. If you wish to save him, you must first understand that his dreams matter more than his training. Obi-Wan's eyes snapped open in his quarters at the Jedi Temple, dawn light filtering through the windows. He sat up quickly, reaching for the Force to analyze what he just experienced. Not a vision, not a trick, something else entirely. A conversation with a being that existed in dreams themselves. He activated his comlink. "Master Yoda, Master Windu, I need an emergency council session. Something has arrived on Coruscant. Something I've never encountered before." Across the city, Dream continued his observation, walking through streets where early morning workers passed him without truly seeing their minds, registering him as just another being in a city of trillions. But those who were still partially asleep, caught between dreaming and waking, saw him clearly and shuddered at the pale figure whose eyes held infinity. The Lord of Dreams had entered a galaxy at war, and he was profoundly displeased by what he found in the sleeping minds all around him. The Clone Wars had created an ocean of nightmares, and Dream could not ignore such suffering. He had responsibilities. He had rules. He had power beyond anything the Jedi or Sith could imagine. And he had decided that this galaxy's collective nightmare needed to end one way or another. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. The Jedi Temple's council chamber filled within the hour, masters gathering with unusual urgency. Obi-Wan stood at the center, his normally composed demeanor showing traces of genuine unease. Around him, the council members Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, and others waited with varying degrees of patience and concern. "Unusual this emergency is," Yoda observed, his ancient eyes studying Obi-Wan with penetrating awareness. "Disturbed in the Force, you are. Yet no danger do I sense. Speak, you should." One quote. Obi-Wan took a breath, organizing thoughts that still felt half-formed from the dream encounter. "Masters, I believe we've been visited by something unprecedented. During meditation last night, I made contact with an entity that claims to be the embodiment of dreams themselves. It calls itself Dream of the Endless." "A Force vision?" Mace Windu asked, his skepticism evident but measured. "No, Master, this was different. It wasn't the Force showing me possibilities. It was an actual being that exists within dreams, speaking directly to my sleeping consciousness. It demonstrated knowledge it couldn't have obtained through normal means, and it showed me." Obi-Wan paused, choosing words carefully. "It showed me the nightmares. Every being on Coruscant, suffering through war trauma in their sleep. billions of them, all at once. The entity claims the collective suffering of the galaxy has pulled it from its own realm into ours. Shakti leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. You're describing something that exists outside conventional reality, but can interact with consciousness directly. Similar to certain force manifestations, but distinct from them. It claimed the Force and its realm, the dreaming, it called it, are parallel systems. Obi-Wan continued, both connecting minds, but in different ways. The Force binds living beings. The dreaming connects sleeping consciousness across all realities. All realities, Ki-Adi-Mundi repeated slowly. You're suggesting this entity comes from outside our galaxy? Another dimension entirely? It suggested exactly that. It said it's one of 7 siblings who embody fundamental aspects of existence. Dream, death, desire, and 4 others it didn't name. It exists wherever beings sleep and dream, regardless of which reality they inhabit. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled. Finally, Yoda spoke, his voice carrying the weight of 800 years of accumulated wisdom. Felt something in the Force, I have. A disturbance, but not of the dark side. A thinning of barriers, a place where reality touches something. The ancient master's ears drooped slightly. If true, Obi-Wan's account is, then entered our galaxy has a being of immense power. Power, perhaps beyond our understanding. It made one other claim, Obi-Wan said quietly. It told me that Anakin dreams of Padme dying in childbirth, every night, the same nightmare, and that these dreams are pushing him toward the dark side. Mace Windu's expression hardened. Skywalker's dreams are his own concern. The code teaches us to release our attachments, not obsess over prophetic nightmares. But what if they're not just nightmares? Obi-Wan pressed. What if this entity is right, and we've been dismissing something crucial by treating dreams as mere distractions? The Force sends visions through dreams, masters. We've always known this. What if, by suppressing our emotional connection to those dreams, we're missing vital warnings? Dangerous thinking, that is, Yoda said, though his tone was more contemplative than reproachful. Balance between detachment and awareness we must maintain. Yet, troubled by Skywalker's path, I have been. If this dream entity speaks truth about his nightmares, then we need to speak with it directly, Plo Koon concluded. Determine its intentions, its capabilities, and whether it represents a threat to the Republic or the Jedi Order. It said it cannot be killed, bound, or controlled, Obi-Wan warned. That it exists as long as dreams exist. I believed it. Mace Windu stood, his decision made. Then we find it and assess for ourselves. If it's truly on Coruscant, the Force should reveal its location, or at least the disturbance it creates by being here. But Dream of the Endless had no intention of hiding. He had observed the Jedi Council's meeting through the dreams of every sleeping being within a kilometer of the temple, their unconscious minds providing windows into the waking world. Now, he stood in the temple's meditation gardens, where morning light filtered through carefully cultivated trees and water flowed in patterns designed to promote tranquility. A young Padawan, a Togruta girl, perhaps 12 standard years old, approached the gardens for her morning meditation practice. She stopped abruptly when she saw Dream standing beside a reflection pool, his pale figure stark against the garden's organic beauty. "Who are you?" she asked with the directness of youth. "I've never seen you in the temple before." Dream regarded her with eyes that held the weight of eons. I am Dream. What is your name, young one? We have man my plea state. We have my send. We have my plea state. Ahsoka Tano, she replied, instinctively cautious but not afraid. You're not a Jedi. Are you a visitor? The temple doesn't usually allow outsiders in the meditation gardens. I go where dreams require me, Dream said simply. He studied the young Padawan with interest. Her mind, even awake, touched the edges of the dreaming more easily than most Jedi. Perhaps her youth meant the Order's conditioning hadn't fully suppressed her natural connection to dreams. Tell me, Ahsoka Tano, what do you dream of? The question caught her off guard. Jedi don't really talk about dreams. Master Plo says they're distractions from the Force, and yet the Force sends visions through dreams, Dream observed. Do you never wonder why your Order teaches you to suppress the very channel through which the Force speaks most clearly? Ahsoka frowned, wrestling with the question. Dreams can be confusing. Scary. The Masters say if we focus on them too much, we might mistake fear for guidance. Fear is guidance, Dream said quietly. Not to be followed blindly, but to be understood. Your dreams show you what matters, what threatens, what you truly desire beneath the disciplines imposed by your training. Ignoring them does not make you stronger. It makes you ignorant of your own heart. Before Ahsoka could respond, she felt presences approaching through the Force, the Council, multiple Masters, moving with purpose toward the meditation gardens. Dream sensed them as well, their waking minds bright with curiosity and caution. Your elders come to interrogate me. Would you like to stay, Ahsoka Tano? You might learn something your masters are reluctant to teach. The young Padawan hesitated, caught between propriety and curiosity. Curiosity won. She moved to stand beside Dream, not defending him, but positioned to observe whatever came next. Mace Windu entered the garden first, flanked by Obi-Wan, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Shakti. Yoda followed at his own pace, leaning on his gimmer stick, while his ancient eyes studied the pale figure beside the reflection pool. You are the entity Master Kenobi encountered, Windu stated, not a question. His hand rested near his lightsaber, not threatening but ready. I am Dream of the Endless, Dream confirmed. Lord of the Dreaming, Prince of Stories, King of Nightmares and Dreams. I have many names across many realities, but those will suffice. Padawan Tano, Windu said, without taking his eyes off Dream. Return to your master. This is council business. She may stay. Dream interjected smoothly. Her dreams touch the dreaming more clearly than most of your Order. She has not yet learned to fully suppress her connection to her own unconscious mind. That makes her perspective valuable. Ahsoka looked between the council masters and the strange pale being, uncertain whether she was being defended or used as some kind of pawn. Yoda resolved the tension. Stay, she may, the ancient master said, approaching until he stood before Dream. Despite the size difference, Yoda barely reaching Dream's waist, the Grand Master's presence was immense in the Force. Interesting you are. Outside the Force, yet touching it. Neither light nor dark, yet affecting both. What purpose brings you to our galaxy, Dream of the Endless? I did not choose to come, Dream replied, his voice carrying resonances that seemed to echo from distant places. Your galaxy's suffering called to me. The Clone Wars have created an unprecedented concentration of nightmares, billions of beings experiencing war trauma simultaneously. their collective unconscious crying out through the dreaming. The psychic weight of so much anguish tore open a passage between your reality and mine. "You're saying the war itself summoned you?" Obi-Wan asked, remembering the ocean of nightmares Dream had shown him. "Precisely. I maintain the realm of dreams and nightmares across all realities. When a civilization's collective dreaming becomes so traumatized, so saturated with suffering, it disrupts the balance I am sworn to preserve. I came to understand why this galaxy's dreams have become an unending nightmare." Shakti spoke, her voice carefully neutral. Dream's gaze swept across the assembled Jedi, seeing not just their physical forms but the dreams they suppressed, the fears they denied, the attachments they pretended not to feel. "That you are losing, not just the war, but the battle for your own souls. Your order teaches detachment, but detachment from emotion is detachment from the very essence of consciousness. You meditate to touch the Force, but you suppress the dreams through which the Force most clearly speaks. You sense the future, but you ignore the nightmares that show you exactly what approaches. The Jedi Code has guided us for millennia," Mace Windu said, his tone hardening. "We don't need a being from another reality questioning our fundamental philosophy. Your philosophy has left you blind," Dream stated, and though his voice remained calm, there was power in it, ancient and absolute. Anakin Skywalker stands at the edge of an abyss. Every night, he dreams of his wife's death. Every night, that dream pushes him closer to embracing the dark side. You sense his instability through the Force, but you dismiss his dreams as attachment rather than prophecy. When he falls, and he will fall, unless something changes, his nightmares will become reality. The garden fell silent. Several council members exchanged glances. They'd all sensed Anakin's growing darkness, but none had known the specific form his fears took. "You claim to know the future," Ki Adi Mundi challenged. "I do not claim I observe," Dream corrected. "I see all possible futures through the dreams of those who sleep. Skywalker's path is not fixed, but it narrows daily. His nightmares show him loss, and his fear of loss drives him toward the very choices that will cause it. This is the nature of tragic prophecy. The vision creates the reality it predicts." Yoda's ears had flattened completely against his head, a sign of deep concern. "Speak you do of things we have sensed but not fully understood. Clouded, the future has become. Dark times ahead, the Force suggests. But interfere with destiny, we cannot." "Destiny," Dream repeated, and something like bitter amusement touched his ancient features. "I am older than your galaxy's concept of destiny. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. Heroes become villains. Prophecies fulfill and fail across infinite realities. Destiny is simply the story you tell yourselves about choices already made. It can be rewritten, but only if you acknowledge the dreams that reveal it." "Then help us," Obi-Wan said suddenly. "If you truly see the future through dreams, if you understand what's pushing Anakin toward darkness, help us prevent it." Dream regarded Obi-Wan with something approaching respect. "You ask me to interfere in the destinies of an entire galaxy. That is no small thing. My responsibilities extend beyond your reality, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Every action I take here affects the dreaming across countless worlds and dimensions." "But you came here," Ahsoka spoke up, surprising everyone, including herself. "You said the suffering called to you. If you didn't want to help, you could have stayed away, right?" Dream's gaze shifted to the young Padawan, and the ghost of a smile touched his lips. Perceptive, yes. I could have resisted the summons, maintained the barriers between realities despite the psychic pressure. But I chose to answer because he paused, considering his own motivations with the care of one who understands that even the endless are not entirely free of sentiment. Because I have walked through this galaxy's dreams and found them beautiful, even in their anguish. The beings here dream of hope, justice, love concepts worth preserving. And because I am curious what will happen if someone who cannot be manipulated by either light or dark enters your conflict. Curious, Mace Windu repeated flatly. You're treating this as an experiment. I treat it as what it is, a story unfolding with multiple possible endings. I am the Prince of Stories, Master Windu. I cannot help but be invested in how this tale concludes. Dream's expression grew more serious. But understand this, I will not be bound by your code, your republic, or your war. I serve the dreaming and all who dream, Jedi and Sith, Republic and Separatist alike. If that makes me dangerous to your purposes, so be it. I cannot be otherwise. The council members absorbed this declaration. An entity of immense power had entered their galaxy, claimed responsibility to no faction, and possessed abilities that operated completely outside Force tradition. The implications were staggering. What do you intend to do? Yoda asked, the crucial question finally voiced. Dream turned to face the ancient master fully, and for a moment the two beings, both impossibly old, both wielders of fundamental powers, regarded each other with mutual recognition. I intend, Dream said slowly, to walk through the dreams of your galaxy and understand what truly drives this war. Not the politics or territories, but the fears and desires that fuel the conflict. I will speak with those whose dreams shape reality. Skywalker, Chancellor Palpatine, Count Dooku, and others whose unconscious minds touch the dreaming most powerfully. And when I understand the full story, Dream paused, considering futures he could perceive but not control. I will decide whether this nightmare can be healed or whether it must burn itself out to its inevitable, tragic conclusion. And if we cannot allow you to wander freely through the galaxy? Windu asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Then you will fail, Dream replied simply. Because I go where dreams require me, and nothing in this reality can prevent that. Not your force, not your weapons, not your combined will. I am as fundamental to existence as gravity or time. You may work with me or oppose me, but you cannot stop me. He began to fade, his form becoming translucent, bleeding into shadows and morning mist. His final words echoed through the garden, even as his physical presence dissolved. Tell Anakin Skywalker that his nightmares can be faced rather than feared. Tell him that Dream itself offers to show him what his choices will create if he has courage enough to look. And tell yourselves, Jedi Council, that sometimes the dreams you suppress contain the wisdom you most desperately need. Then he was gone, dissolved into the boundary between waking and sleeping, leaving the Jedi Council standing in stunned silence in the meditation gardens. Ahsoka was the first to speak, her young voice cutting through the tension. Masters, I think we should probably take his offer seriously. Something about him felt true, like when the Force shows you something important, but deeper somehow. Yoda nodded slowly, his expression grave. Right, young Tano is. Dangerous. This dream may be. Powerful, Certainly, but wrong. I do not believe he is. The Force itself whispers that change comes, whether for good or ill. The ancient master's voice trailed off, and when he continued, it carried the weight of prophecy. That depends on whose dreams we choose to believe. The Lord of Dreams had announced himself to the Jedi Order, and the galaxy would never dream the same way again. Dream walked the streets of Coruscant's lower levels, where sunlight never reached and the city's dreams grew darker. Here, in the industrial sectors and worker dormitories stacked thousands of meters below the gleaming Senate towers, the war's true cost became visible. Refugees from separatist-occupied worlds huddled in overcrowded shelters. Clone troopers on leave drowned their nightmares in cheap alcohol. Families received notification that their sons and daughters would never return from distant battlefields. Every mind Dream touched carried trauma like scar tissue. A Rhodian mechanic dreamed of his workshop on Rhodia burning while battle droids marched past. A human woman dreamed of searching endlessly through rubble for her daughter's body. A Duros pilot dreamed of his squadron disintegrating around him, the screams cutting off one by one as starfighters exploded. The Lord of Dreams absorbed it all, feeling each nightmare as intimately as if it were his own. This was his nature, to experience the dreaming consciousness of all beings simultaneously, to maintain the delicate balance between hope and despair across infinite minds. But this galaxy's concentrated suffering tested even his ancient endurance. "You feel it too," a voice spoke from the shadows. Not a physical voice, but one that resonated through the Force and the dreaming simultaneously. Dream turned to see a figure emerge from an alley draped in dark robes, face hidden beneath a hood. But Dream's perception went deeper than physical appearance. He saw the being's true nature, the calculations behind yellow eyes, the corruption that saturated every cell. Count Dooku, Dream identified. Though he'd never encountered the Sith Lord directly, the dreaming provided knowledge of all who slept, and Dooku's nightmares had been particularly instructive. Or should I say, Darth Tyrannus. Your sleeping mind carries both identities, though you pretend the first is merely a mask for the second. Dooku's hood fell back, revealing aristocratic features and eyes that held both surprise and calculation. Remarkable. You know my Sith name without my revealing it. What are you? Some new Jedi technique for reading minds? I am Dream of the Endless. I know your name because I have walked through your nightmares, Dooku. Every night, you dream of the Jedi Order's corruption, their failure to prevent suffering across the galaxy. You dream of Count Dooku, the idealist, who left the Order because he could no longer stomach their complicity with injustice. And you dream of Darth Tyrannus, the pragmatist, who embraced the dark side to gain power enough to reshape the galaxy. Dream's eyes, older than stars, held no judgment, only observation. You dream that both identities are true, that you can serve the dark side while maintaining noble intentions. This is the lie you tell yourself in sleep. Dooku's hand moved to his lightsaber hilt, but he didn't ignite it. You speak with dangerous knowledge, stranger. Knowledge that could see you eliminated as a threat to my master's plans. Your master, Dream repeated, interest flickering across his ancient features. Darth Sidious. I have not yet walked through his dreams. He shields his sleeping mind with impressive discipline. But I will, eventually. All beings sleep, and when they do, they enter my realm, whether they wish it or not. You claim dominion over dreams? Dooku's skepticism was evident, but so was his caution. The Force whispered warnings about this pale being, though it couldn't articulate what made him dangerous. "I do not claim I am," Dream stated. "I am the anthropomorphic personification of dreams themselves, one of 7 fundamental aspects of existence. I have existed since the first conscious being slept, and I will exist until the last dream fades from the final sleeping mind. Your master's power over the dark side is formidable, but it is nothing compared to the dreaming's antiquity and scope." Dooku studied Dream with the analytical mind that had made him both a legendary Jedi and a formidable Sith. "If you're truly what you claim, then you represent a variable my master did not account for. That alone makes you extraordinarily dangerous to both sides of this conflict." "I represent nothing except what I am," Dream replied. "But yes, I am dangerous. Not because I wish to interfere with your plans, but because I cannot tolerate what this war has done to the collective unconscious of your galaxy. Billions suffer nightmares every night, their hope eroding, their capacity for joy diminishing. This trauma saturates the dreaming, and it must end. Then we share a goal," Dooku said carefully. "The war must end. My master and I work toward precisely that outcome." "Do you?" Dream's question carried layers of meaning. "Or do you work toward endless war, carefully manage to serve purposes you tell yourself are noble?" "Your dreams suggest the latter, Dooku. You dream of power, yes, but also of endless conflict, reshaping the galaxy according to your master's design. This is not ending war, this is weaponizing it." Dooku's expression hardened. "You understand nothing of the plan. The galaxy is corrupt, stagnant, controlled by bureaucrats and criminals. Only through destruction can it be purified and rebuilt. I have heard that justification in 1,000 realities," Dream said quietly. "Always from those who believe their vision justifies any atrocity. Sometimes they are even partially correct. The old order was corrupt, did need replacing. But the cost..." Dream's ancient eyes held depths of sorrow that predated Dooku's civilization. "The cost is always higher than the architects anticipate. The nightmares linger for generations." "Then help us," Dooku said, changing tactics. "Turn the Republic soldiers against them through nightmares. Make the Jedi Council see visions of defeat until they surrender. End this conflict in months rather than years." Dream's expression remained neutral, but something in his stillness suggested offense at the suggestion. "You ask me to become a weapon, to corrupt the dreaming, the one realm that should offer respite from your war, and transform it into another battlefield. I will not." "Because of principles?" Dooku's tone held contempt. "Principles are luxuries the powerful indulge while the weak suffer. If you truly feel the galaxy's pain as you claim, you would act to end it by any means necessary. I am bound by rules more fundamental than your concept of necessity," Dream stated. "I am one of the endless. We have responsibilities that supersede individual outcomes or moral calculations. The dreaming must remain neutral ground, a space where all beings, regardless of faction or morality, can process their experiences through dreams and nightmares. If I weaponize that realm, I betray my fundamental nature and purpose." Dooku's hand tightened on his lightsaber. "Then you are useless to the separatist cause, and dangerous to it, if you intend to interfere with our plans." "I intend," Dream said calmly, "to do what I have always done, maintain the dreaming and serve those who sleep. If that interferes with your plans, the fault lies with your plans, not my purpose. The Sith Lord's yellow eyes narrowed. My master will want to know about you. Everything about you, your origins, your powers, your weaknesses. And he will find ways to exploit or eliminate you. Many have tried, Dream replied. Demons, gods, sorcerers, cosmic entities all have attempted to bind, control, or destroy me over the eons. Some came remarkably close, but I endure because dreams endure. As long as beings sleep and dream, I exist. Your master's power, formidable though it may be, cannot change that fundamental truth. Dooku ignited his curved lightsaber, the crimson blade casting harsh shadows in the alley. Perhaps, but you have physical form here, standing before me. That makes you vulnerable in ways your philosophy doesn't account for. He struck Makashi precision combined with dark side enhancement, a killing blow meant to bisect the strange being before it could respond. The lightsaber passed through Dream's form as if cutting mist. Dream's body dissolved and reformed behind Dooku, his expression unchanged. I am not truly here, Darth Tyrannus. What you see is a projection, a physical manifestation I maintain as courtesy to those accustomed to corporeal interaction. But my true existence resides in the dreaming, and nothing in this reality can harm me there. Dooku spun, his second strike equally ineffective. The lightsaber's blade disrupted Dream's form temporarily, but the Lord of Dreams simply coalesced again with the patience of the Eternal. You cannot kill me, Dream stated. You cannot bind me. You cannot threaten me with anything that matters. I am one of 7 beings who will exist until existence itself ends. Your power, your master's power, the combined might of every Force user in this galaxy, it is nothing against what I am. The Sith Lord deactivated his weapon, recognizing futility when confronted with it. Then what do you want? Why reveal yourself to me if not to take a side in this conflict? Because your dreams trouble me, Dream said simply. You genuinely believe you're working toward a better galaxy, yet your nightmares know the truth that you've become a tool of darkness, that your noble intentions pave a road to atrocities you cannot yet imagine. I wanted to see if the waking Dooku would acknowledge what his sleeping mind already knows. My commitment to my master's plan is absolute, Dooku stated coldly. Is it? Dream gestured, and the alley's shadows deepened, warped, became something more than absence of light. The boundary between waking and sleeping grew thin, and Dooku felt himself pulled partially into the dreaming while still conscious. He saw himself as Dream saw him, a man torn between 2 identities, corrupted by power he claimed to control, serving a master whose true purposes remained hidden even from his apprentice. He saw possible futures branching from his choices, a galaxy under Sith control, burning worlds, his own inevitable betrayal by Sidious once his usefulness ended. This is a trick, Dooku insisted, but his voice wavered. Dark side manipulation. This is truth, Dream corrected. Your own unconscious mind showing you what you refuse to acknowledge in waking hours. I am merely providing clarity, allowing your dreaming consciousness to speak directly to your waking awareness. The question is whether you're strong enough to listen. Dooku wrenched himself back from the vision, breaking the partial dream state through sheer force of will and dark side energy. He stood in the alley again, fully awake, but the visions lingered. Stay away from me, the Sith Lord commanded, his composure cracking. Whatever you are, whatever powers you claim, stay out of my dreams, out of my mind. This is your only warning." "I go where dreams require me," Dream replied, unmoved by the threat. "And your dreams require attention, Dooku. You have not yet fallen so far into darkness that redemption is impossible. But the window closes. Soon, the choices you've made will define you absolutely, and the man who left the Jedi Order to fight injustice will be completely consumed by the Sith Lord who enables it." Dooku turned to leave, then paused. "Everything his dreams reveal," Dream said. "Fear of loss, anger at constraints, power without wisdom, love that has become obsession, nightmares of his wife dying so vivid and recurring that they erode the boundary between prophecy and paranoia. He is the fulcrum around which this war's ultimate outcome will pivot." "My master takes great interest in Skywalker," Dooku said carefully. "Sees potential in him that the Jedi fail to cultivate." "Your master sees a weapon," Dream corrected, "a being of immense power whose emotional attachments make him vulnerable to manipulation." Sidious dreams of Skywalker falling, becoming his ultimate apprentice. Those dreams are so focused, so laden with dark intent, that they pollute the dreaming around anyone who sleeps near the Chosen One. Your master is already shaping Skywalker's nightmares, though the boy doesn't realize it yet. Dooku absorbed this information, calculating its implications. If you know this, why tell me? Why not warn the Jedi Council? Because I tell everyone what their dreams reveal, Dream said. Jedi, Sith, soldier, civilian, all who sleep deserve to understand what their unconscious minds know. What they do with that knowledge is their choice, not mine to dictate. I am not here to choose winners in your war, Dooku. I am here to observe, to maintain the dreaming's integrity, and to offer clarity where dreams are clouded by external manipulation. You're a fool, Dooku said finally. Power without purpose is waste. If you truly command dreams as you claim, you could reshape the galaxy overnight. Instead, you stand on principles that will accomplish nothing except your own irrelevance. Perhaps, Dream acknowledged, but irrelevance would be preferable to corruption. I have walked too many realities, witnessed too many beings compromise their fundamental nature for temporary advantage. It always ends the same way, in loss of self more complete than any external defeat could accomplish. I am Dream. I will remain Dream. And that means serving the dreaming, not the ambitions of Sith Lords or Jedi Masters. Dooku departed without further words, moving through the lower levels with purpose toward wherever his master's business required him. But his dreams that night would be troubled, filled with visions of futures he'd glimpsed in the moment Dream had pulled back the veil. Dream remained in the alley, considering the encounter. The Sith apprentice was more conflicted than he admitted, still clinging to fragments of the idealistic Jedi he'd once been. But Count Dooku was also committed to a path that led inevitably toward darkness and betrayal, both committing and receiving it. The Lord of Dreams could show Dooku the truth of his choices, but he could not force acceptance of that truth. Free will remained sacred, even when beings used it to destroy themselves. Dream's attention shifted to something he'd been sensing since arriving on Coruscant, a presence that slept rarely, dreamed carefully, and shielded its unconscious mind with impressive discipline. The source of the corruption Dooku served, the puppet master pulling strings while pretending to be merely another politician. Chancellor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord who wore two faces and served only himself. Soon, Dream murmured to the shadows. Soon I will walk through your carefully guarded dreams, Sidious, and we will see if even a master manipulator can hide from the King of Nightmares when he sleeps. The boundary between waking and dreaming shimmered, and Dream stepped through it, dissolving into the dreaming itself to continue his observations of a galaxy drowning in its own nightmares. Above, in the gleaming towers of power, Chancellor Palpatine paused in his office and frowned. He'd felt something through the Force, a disturbance, a presence unlike anything he'd encountered. Not Jedi, not Sith, something else entirely, probing at the edges of consciousness with ancient patience. The Sith Lord's yellow eyes narrowed behind his public face. A new variable had entered his carefully orchestrated plans, and unlike the Jedi Council or Senate opposition, this variable felt genuinely unpredictable. Interesting, Palpatine whispered to the empty office. Most interesting indeed. General Grievous awoke, screaming in his private quarters aboard the Separatist flagship Invisible Hand, his mechanical body jerking upright on the recharge platform. His organic components, the few that remained, flooded with stress hormones as his cybernetic systems struggled to process what his brain had just experienced. A nightmare. The Kaleesh warrior who had become a cyborg killing machine had experienced a nightmare so vivid, so absolutely terrifying, that even his dulled emotional responses couldn't suppress the primal fear. He'd been dying. Not the slow death of his current existence, trapped in a mechanical body that sustained him while killing him by degrees, but truly dying, reverting, his cybernetic components failing, falling away like shed skin, revealing the ruined organic body beneath. The pain of his original injuries returning, the agony that Count Dooku had saved him from by transforming him into this mechanized abomination, and standing over him as he died, watching with ancient eyes that held neither pity nor judgment, had been a pale figure in a cloak of shadows and starlight. What was that? Grievous rasped through his vocabulator, his mechanical hands clenching and unclenching. He hadn't dreamed in years. The cybernetic modifications that enhanced his combat capabilities had dulled his capacity for sleep, for dreams, for anything resembling his former organic existence. Yet he had dreamed, and the dream had felt more real than his waking life. That, a voice spoke from the shadows of his quarters, was a reminder of what you truly are beneath the metal, General Grievous. Or should I say, Kimayan Jai Shilo. The cyborg general spun, lightsabers igniting in all four hands before his conscious mind even registered the threat. 4 stolen Jedi weapons blazed in the darkness, illuminating a figure who stood calmly in the corner, pale skin, star-filled eyes, and an expression of infinite patience. Identify yourself. Grievous snarled, his vocabulator distorting the words into mechanical menace. How did you breach my ship's security? How do you know my birth name? I am Dream of the Endless, the figure replied, unperturbed by the 4 lightsabers pointed at him. I know your birth name because I have walked through your dreams, or what remains of them after your transformation into this hybrid of flesh and machine. You are a fascinating case study in how cybernetic modification affects the dreaming mind. Grievous lunged, all 4 lightsabers converging on Dream's position with speed that had killed dozens of Jedi. The blades passed through empty air as Dream's form dissolved like mist, reforming several meters away. I am not physically present, General. What you see is merely a projection, a courtesy I extend to those I wish to speak with directly. Dream's tone remained conversational, as if discussing weather rather than standing in a war criminal's quarters. You cannot harm me, but I mean you no harm either. I simply wish to understand what you have become and what you dream of in the few moments your consciousness still touches sleep. I don't dream, Grievous stated, deactivating two of his lightsabers while keeping the others ready. Dreams are weakness, biological inefficiency that my cybernetic modifications eliminated. You dream, Dream corrected gently, less than you once did, and in fragmented ways your organic brain struggles to process through mechanical filters, but you dream nonetheless. Tonight, I ensured you would remember one such dream, so we might have this conversation. The nightmare, Grievous realized, his mechanical voice dropping to something approaching fear. You created that vision, made me experience. I created nothing, Dream interrupted. I merely revealed what your unconscious mind already knows and desperately tries to suppress. You are dying, Grievous. The organic components that remain in your cybernetic shell are failing. Your brain, isolated in its durasteel housing, is slowly deteriorating from the disconnect between flesh and machine. Your heart, your actual heart, beats in that chest cavity, struggling to pump blood through a body that's 90% metal. The pain you thought you escaped by becoming this hybrid, it has never left. Your sleeping mind screams with it every moment you're not consciously suppressing the signals. Grievous's mechanical hands trembled slightly, a tell that he hated, that revealed the organic fear still lurking beneath his intimidating exterior. You lie. Count Dooku saved me, made me stronger. I am superior to what I was. Count Dooku transformed you into a weapon, Dream said, and now his voice carried something like pity. He took a proud warrior named Quimain Jai Shilal, a Kaleesh general who fought to protect his people, and perverted you into an instrument of terror. You believe you chose this transformation, but your dreams tell a different story. They show manipulation, coercion, exploitation of your injuries to make you dependent on separatist technology and loyalty. I am loyal to the separatist cause, Grievous insisted, but the words rang hollow even to his own auditory sensors. Are you? Dream moved closer, and despite the lightsabers still active in Grievous's hands, the cyborg couldn't bring himself to strike. Or are you trapped a prisoner in your own body, following orders because the alternative is admitting what you've become? Your dreams are filled with memories of Kalee, General, your homeworld, your people. You dream of the Kaleesh warrior you once were, fighting for honor rather than conquest. And you dream of Rondaru Liege Kumar. The name struck like a physical blow. Grievous's mechanical frame actually staggered, servos whining as his organic brain flooded with emotion his cybernetic systems couldn't fully process. Don't, he rasped, don't speak her name. She was your beloved, Dream continued, his ancient eyes holding genuine compassion now. Your partner, your equal in combat and spirit. She died in battle before you were transformed. And in your deepest dreams, the ones you never remember upon waking, you see her again. She looks at you with horror and sorrow, unable to recognize the mechanical abomination that carries the name of the warrior she loved. Enough! Grievous roared, all four lightsabers slashing in wild arcs that carved through Dream's projection again and again. But the Lord of Dreams simply reformed each time, patient and unharmed. I show you these truths not to torment you, Dream said when Grievous finally stopped his futile assault, but because you deserve to know what your sleeping mind tries to tell you. You have been used, Grievous. manipulated by Count Dooku and his master into becoming a monster who murders Jedi for sport. The warrior code you once lived, by the honor you fought to preserve, has been corrupted into something Rondaroo would be ashamed to witness. The cyborg general's vocabulary emitted something between a growl and a sob, a sound that shouldn't have been possible from his mechanical voice system, but organic anguish found a way through. "What do you want from me? Why torment me with memories of what I can never be again?" "I want nothing," Dream replied. "But I offer something: clarity, understanding of what you truly are, beneath the armor and weapons. Your dreams show me a warrior who regrets his transformation, who longs for the death he fears, who wishes he had died with honor on Kali rather than become this hybrid abomination serving masters he despises." "I don't," Grievous began, but the words died. In the moments between waking and sleep, in the fragmented dreams his cybernetic brain barely processed, he did long for death. He did regret the transformation that had saved him. He did hate what he'd become. "The Jedi you hunt," Dream continued, "dream of you as well. They dream of a monster who collects lightsabers like trophies, who kills Force users despite having no Force sensitivity himself. To them, you represent everything they fight against: perversion of life through technology, honor sacrificed for power, the dark side made manifest through metal and hate." "They're not wrong," Grievous admitted, his vocabulary barely above a whisper. It was the first honest statement he'd made to anyone in years. "I am a monster. I know what I am. But you were not always," Dream said gently, "and you need not remain one. You have choices still, Grievous. Difficult choices, but choices nonetheless. You could abandon the Separatists, seek your own path. You could turn against Dooku and his master, expose their manipulation. You could even dream paused, considering futures he perceived through dreams. You could choose to die, truly die, as a warrior, rather than continuing this half-life that satisfies no one, least of all yourself." Grievous's mechanical body stood motionless, processing this impossible conversation. A being who claimed to be the embodiment of dreams themselves had entered his quarters, forced him to confront truths he'd buried beneath layers of cybernetic suppression and separatist propaganda, and now offered what? Freedom? Death? Redemption? "I have killed hundreds," Grievous said finally. "Jedi, clones, civilians. I am responsible for atrocities across dozens of worlds. There is no redemption for what I've done." "I do not offer redemption," Dream clarified. "I am not a judge, Grievous. I do not condemn or absolve. I simply show you what your dreams already know, that you are not what you pretend to be, that you serve a cause you do not believe in, that you have sacrificed your honor for survival you do not even want. What you do with that knowledge is your choice alone." "Why?" The cyborg's question held genuine confusion. "Why show me this? What purpose does it serve for you to awaken my guilt, my self-loathing?" "Because," Dream said quietly, "you still dream. Despite the cybernetic modifications, despite the pain suppression, despite everything Dooku did to transform you into a weapon, your organic brain still dreams. That means you are still, in some small way, the being you once were. And all dreamers deserve to understand their own nightmares." Dream began to fade, his projection dissolving as he prepared to depart. "Wait, the dream you showed me dying, reverting to organic form, was that prophecy? Will I die like that?" Dream paused, considering the question with the care of one who understands that truth can wound as deeply as any blade. I showed you no prophecy, only your deepest fear. Whether you die reverting to organic form, or perish in battle as a cyborg, or somehow survive this war to face a different end, these are futures still unwritten. But yes, General, you will die. The question is whether you die as Grievous the weapon, or as Quimanjai Shilal the warrior. That choice remains yours. The Lord of Dreams vanished completely, leaving General Grievous alone in his quarters aboard the Invisible Hand. The cyborg stood motionless for long moments, his mechanical body perfectly still while his organic brain wrestled with emotions his cybernetic systems couldn't suppress. Finally, he deactivated all 4 lightsabers and slumped onto his recharge platform. He wouldn't sleep again tonight, couldn't risk another dream like that, another confrontation with truths he'd spent years avoiding. But he would remember. And in remembering, something long dormant in the organic remains of Quimanjai Shilal began to stir questions about loyalty, purpose, and whether serving Dooku's war truly honored the warrior code he'd once lived by. Dream watched from the dreaming as Grievous struggled with these questions. The cyborg general was one small piece in the larger tapestry of this war, but even small pieces mattered. Every dreaming mind affected the collective unconscious. Every choice rippled through the dreaming, creating patterns that shaped reality itself. And General Grievous had just been given a choice he'd never consciously articulated before: continue being the monster the war had made him, or reclaim some fragment of the warrior he'd once been before transformation stole his soul. What he would choose, even Dream could not predict with certainty. Free will remained one of the few variables even the Endless could not control. But the seed had been planted, and seeds, given time and proper conditions, had a way of growing into things no one anticipated. Anakin Skywalker didn't want to sleep. He'd been avoiding it for 3 days now, pushing himself through combat simulations, maintenance work on his starfighter, and any task that kept his mind occupied and his eyes open. But the human body had limits even the Chosen One couldn't ignore forever. When sleep finally claimed him in his quarters at the Jedi Temple, the nightmares were waiting. Padme on a medical table, screaming, her body swollen with pregnancy, her face contorted in agony, medical droids hovering, useless, and her voice over and over, "Anakin, help me. Please, help me." Then silence, her chest still, her eyes empty, the twins crying somewhere he couldn't reach them. Anakin thrashed in his sleep, his connection to the Force radiating distress that rippled through the temple. Objects in his quarters trembled, the light fixture overhead flickered. Then the nightmare changed. The medical room dissolved, replaced by something else, a vast space that seemed to be both interior and exterior, both intimate and infinite. Stars wheeled overhead, but also hung within arm's reach. Shadows pooled in corners that shouldn't exist, and distant sounds echoed as if from impossible distances. Anakin found himself standing, no longer watching Padme die, but fully aware within the dream. He wore his Jedi robes, his hand instinctively reaching for a lightsaber that wasn't there. "Where am I?" he demanded, spinning to take in the impossible architecture. This doesn't feel like the other dreams." "You are in the dreaming," a voice answered, and Anakin turned to see a pale figure emerging from shadows that seemed deeper than they should be. "Welcome to my realm, Anakin Skywalker. I am Dream, and we need to talk about the nightmares that are destroying you." Anakin's hand shot forward, the Force surging through him to grip and crush this intruder into his dreams. The telekinetic pressure slammed into Dream and passed through him like water through a sieve, accomplishing nothing. "You cannot harm me here," Dream said calmly. "This is my realm, where I am absolute. Your Force powers are impressive in the waking world, but in dreams, you are subject to my domain. Please, calm yourself. I am not your enemy. You're in my head," Anakin snarled, fear manifesting as aggression. "Get out! Get out!" "I am not in your head, you are in the dreaming," Dream corrected. "There is a difference. Your sleeping consciousness has crossed into my realm, as all dreamers do. I have simply made you aware of it, rather than letting you experience the nightmare your unconscious mind prepared for you." Again, the mention of the nightmare made Anakin's aggressive stance waver. "You saw. How did you?" "I see all dreams, Anakin Skywalker. It is my nature and my responsibility. And your dreams have troubled me since I arrived in this galaxy. Every night, the same nightmare. Padme Amidala dying in childbirth. You, helpless to save her despite all your power. The terror of loss that drives you closer to darkness with each repetition." Dream's ancient eyes held something like concern. "This nightmare is consuming you. And worse, it is beginning to shape reality." "That's no, it's just fear. The code says fear is—" "The code says many things that are profoundly wrong," Dream interrupted. "Fear is not something to be suppressed and denied, Anakin. It is information. Your dreams are trying to tell you something, but you refuse to listen because the Jedi taught you that attachment and emotion are weaknesses rather than fundamental aspects of consciousness." Anakin's jaw clenched. "What do you know about it? You're not even real. You're part of the dream, something my mind created to—" Dream raised one hand, and the dreaming responded. The space around them shifted, and suddenly Anakin stood in the Jedi Council chamber. But something was wrong. The chamber was empty except for bodies, Jedi Masters, all of them, dead on the floor. Older, scarred, with eyes that burned yellow with Sith corruption. "This is one possible future," Dream stated, gesturing to the carnage. "The path your nightmares push you toward. You fear losing Padme so intensely that you will betray everything you believe in for power to prevent her death. And in seeking that power, you will become the very thing you swore to destroy." "No," Anakin whispered, staring at his future self. "You are," Dream said, and now his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "This future is not inevitable, but it grows more probable every day. Your fear of loss drives you toward the dark side. Your inability to process that fear, to acknowledge it and work through it, makes you vulnerable to manipulation. And there is one who watches you, Anakin, one who feeds your nightmares, who whispers promises in your sleeping mind, who shapes your dreams toward darkness even as you believe them to be prophecy." The scene shifted again. Now they stood in a vast chamber of Sith architecture, all sharp angles and menacing shadows. And seated on a throne of black stone was Chancellor Palpatine, but his face was twisted with Sith corruption, his eyes burning with yellow malevolence. Darth Sidious, Dream identified. The Sith Master who has orchestrated this entire war, who has manipulated both sides, who has poisoned your dreams night after night, making you believe your wife's death is inevitable, so you will be desperate enough to embrace the dark side when he offers salvation." Anakin staggered back from the vision, his mind reeling. "Palpatine is no. That's impossible. He's the Chancellor. He's my friend. He is Sith," Dream stated flatly. "I have finally walked through his carefully guarded dreams, Anakin. Seen the truth he hides from all who know him. Palpatine and Sidious are one, the master manipulator who plays both sides of this war, who has groomed you from childhood to become his ultimate weapon, and your nightmares are part of his design." "You're lying," Anakin insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. How many times had he felt something off about Palpatine? How many times had Obi-Wan warned him about the Chancellor's unusual interest? How many times had the Council expressed concerns about Palpatine's accumulation of power? "I am incapable of lying in the dreaming," Dream replied. "This is my realm, where truth manifests whether dreamers wish it or not. I show you what is, what may be, and what you fear. All of it is real in its way. Your nightmares of Padmé's death, they contain truth. She may die if you follow the path fear is pushing you toward. But not because her death is inevitable, because your attempts to prevent it will create the very circumstances that cause it." The throne room dissolved, replaced by another vision, a delivery room. But this time Padmé was being choked by an invisible force. Anakin's future self stood nearby, his hand extended, force choking his own wife in a rage he couldn't control. "No!" Anakin screamed, lunging toward the vision. "I would never hurt her. Never." "Not intentionally," Dream agreed as the vision faded. "But the dark side does not care about your intentions. It feeds on passion, love, hate, fear, anger, all without distinction. You love Padmé so intensely that it becomes possessive. You fear losing her so desperately that you will hurt anyone, even her, to prevent that loss. This is the paradox your nightmares show you. The very love that defines you will destroy everything if you let fear corrupt it." Anakin collapsed to his knees in the dreaming, his mind unable to process the cascading revelations. Palpatine was Sith. His nightmares were being manipulated. His fear would cause what he feared most. The Jedi teachings about attachment suddenly made terrible sense, not because love was wrong, but because love without wisdom became obsession. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Why show me this? If these futures are real, if I'm going to fall, why give me this burden?" "Because," Dream said gently, kneeling to face Anakin directly, "the future is not written. Dreams show possibilities, not certainties. Yes, you stand at the edge of a precipice. Yes, your fear pushes you toward darkness. Yes, Palpatine has been manipulating you since childhood, but you have choice. Anakin Skywalker, you always have choice." "What choice?" Anakin demanded, looking up with desperate hope. "How do I save Padmé? How do I stop these nightmares?" "You stop trying to prevent loss," Dream interrupted. "Loss is inevitable. Everyone you love will die someday. That is the nature of mortality. The Jedi teach detachment to avoid this pain, but they are wrong. The answer is not to love less, but to love more wisely. To accept that you cannot control everything, cannot save everyone, cannot prevent death through force of will alone. Then what do I do?" Anakin's question held the desperation of someone drowning and offered a rope he wasn't sure would hold. Dream placed a pale hand on Anakin's shoulder, the first physical contact he'd made in the dreaming. You acknowledge your fear instead of suppressing it. You tell Padme about the nightmares instead of bearing them alone. You trust your friends Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, the Council with the truth about your marriage and your fears. You reject Palpatine's poisonous counsel and see him for what he truly is. And most importantly, Dream's ancient eyes held compassion earned across infinite realities. You accept that even if Padme dies despite everything you do, it will be tragedy but not failure. Love is not measured by preventing death. It is measured by how you honor life while it exists. Tears streamed down Anakin's face, something he hadn't allowed himself in years of Jedi training. I can't lose her. She's everything to me. I know, Dream said softly. And that love is not weakness, Anakin. It is your greatest strength and your greatest vulnerability. The dark side will try to weaponize it, to corrupt it into possessive control. But if you can love her enough to let her go if necessary, to prioritize her happiness over your need to protect her, to accept that she is her own being with her own destiny, then your love becomes something Sidious cannot corrupt. The dreaming shifted one final time, showing Padme not dying, but alive and radiant, holding two infants with Anakin beside her. Not the broken, corrupted Anakin from the previous visions, but one who had chosen light over darkness, wisdom over fear. This is also possible, Dream stated. This future exists if you make different choices, but it requires courage, Anakin. The courage to face your fears instead of fleeing into false promises of power. The courage to be vulnerable with those you trust. The courage to accept that control is an illusion, and the only thing you truly control is yourself. Anakin stared at the vision of the family he desperately wanted, the future that seemed impossible yet tantalizingly within reach. How do I know this is real? How do I know you're not another trick, another manipulation? You don't, Dream admitted. But ask yourself this. Would manipulation show you your own darkest potential? Would a trick reveal Palpatine's true nature? Would deception teach you that love requires letting go rather than holding tighter? The Lord of Dreams began to fade, releasing Anakin back toward waking. I have shown you truth, Chosen One. What you do with it is your choice. But know this, I will be watching your dreams. And if you begin to slide toward the darkness these visions showed, I will intervene again. You are too important to the galaxy's future to let Sidious claim you without resistance. Wait, Anakin called as Dream dissolved. How do I find you? How do I... Sleep. Dream's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Dream. I am always there, in the space between waking and sleep, waiting for all who need the dreaming's counsel. You need only accept that dreams matter, Anakin. That they are not distractions from the Force, but another way the Force speaks to those willing to listen. Anakin Skywalker woke in his quarters, dawn light streaming through the windows. His face was wet with tears, his body exhausted as if he'd run for miles. But his mind felt clearer than it had in months. He activated his comlink before he could second-guess the impulse. Padme, I need to talk to you. About everything. The nightmares, the fear, all of it. No more secrets, no more trying to handle it alone. Padme's voice came through, concerned but warm. Anakin, are you all right? You sound... I'm better than I've been in a long time, Anakin said, and meant it. But I need help, your help, Obi-Wan's help. I can't do this alone anymore. I'm here, Padme promised. Whatever you need, I'm here. As Anakin prepared to finally share his burdens, Dream observed from the dreaming with something approaching satisfaction. The Chosen One had been shown the truth of his potential, both light and dark. What he would choose remained uncertain. But for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Dream felt hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the nightmare consuming the Star Wars universe might have an ending other than tragedy. Chancellor Palpatine sat alone in his private office, the massive windows overlooking Coruscant's glittering nightscape. To anyone observing, he appeared to be a weary leader working late into the evening, burdened by the weight of galactic war. But the hooded figure who stared out at the city was neither weary nor burdened. He was calculating and increasingly concerned. Something had changed in the Force, a disturbance he couldn't quite identify, like a piece suddenly missing from a puzzle he'd spent decades arranging with meticulous care. Anakin Skywalker's presence in the Force had shifted less turbulent, less consumed by the fear that Sidious had carefully cultivated through years of manipulation and subtle dark side influence on the young Jedi's dreams. Troubling, Palpatine murmured, his public facade slipping away to reveal the yellow-eyed malevolence beneath. What has changed, young Skywalker? What has dulled the delicious fear I have nurtured so carefully? He reached out through the Force, attempting to touch Anakin's sleeping mind as he'd done countless times before, planting nightmares of Padme's death, amplifying his attachments, feeding his paranoia about the Council's distrust. But tonight, something blocked him. Not a Force barrier, which Sidious could have shattered with ease, but something else entirely. A presence that felt neither light nor dark, neither living nor dead. Show yourself, Sidious commanded, his power radiating outward in the Force like a shock wave. The shadows in his office deepened impossibly, and a figure emerged from them, pale and timeless, wrapped in a cloak that seemed woven from night itself. Dream of the Endless stood in the Chancellor's office, having crossed from the dreaming into waking reality with the ease of one for whom such boundaries were suggestions rather than laws. Chancellor Palpatine, Dream said, his voice carrying resonances that predated the galaxy itself. Or should I address you by your true name, Darth Sidious? I find that sleeping minds reveal identities that waking personas struggle to hide. Palpatine's eyes narrowed, yellow irises gleaming with Sith power. His hand moved subtly toward a hidden lightsaber, while simultaneously reaching through the Force to crush this intruder. But the telekinetic assault accomplished nothing. The pale figure remained unmoved, as if Palpatine's considerable power simply didn't apply to him. What are you? Sidious demanded, abandoning his political facade entirely. You are not Jedi, not Force-sensitive in any conventional sense. Yet you stand in my office uninvited and unaffected by abilities that could shatter a man's bones with a thought. I am Dream of the Endless, the figure replied, one of 7 siblings who embody fundamental aspects of existence. I am the anthropomorphic personification of all dreams and nightmares across all realities. And I am here because you have been polluting my realm with your manipulations of Anakin Skywalker's sleeping mind. Sidious studied this unexpected variable with the analytical mind that had orchestrated a galactic war spanning thousands of systems. Fascinating. An entity from outside our reality, claiming dominion over dreams. I sensed your arrival weeks ago but couldn't determine your nature or purpose. Now you reveal yourself to me directly. Why? Because, Dream said, his ancient eyes holding no fear of the Sith Lord's power. You have been using nightmares as a weapon. feeding Anakin Skywalker's fears, shaping his dreams toward darkness, manipulating his unconscious mind to make him vulnerable to your eventual offer of salvation. You have corrupted the dreaming, turned it from a place of processing and understanding into a battleground for your war. This I cannot tolerate. Sidious laughed, a sound devoid of humor, filled with dark amusement. Cannot tolerate? What will you do, Dream Lord? I have orchestrated the destruction of the Jedi Order over decades. I have manipulated an entire galaxy into war. I have bent the Force itself to my will. You are powerful in your realm, perhaps, but this is mine. This is no one's. Dream corrected. Reality belongs to itself. You have merely exploited its weaknesses as predators do. But dreams are mine, and you have been trespassing. The Sith Lord's expression hardened. I have studied dark side techniques for decades. Dream manipulation, nightmare induction, fear amplification through the unconscious mind. These are tools I have mastered. If you believe you can simply command me to cease, you are naive. I do not command, Dream said quietly. I warn. Once. Continue to corrupt Anakin Skywalker's dreams. Continue to weaponize the sleeping minds of this galaxy, and you will discover why even Sith Lords should fear the King of Nightmares. Palpatine's smile was cold and calculating. A threat. How refreshing. Most who oppose me at least attempt diplomacy first. But very well, let us test your power against mine, Dream Lord. Show me why I should fear you. The Force erupted from Sidious in a concentrated wave of dark side energy, not just power, but concentrated hatred, malevolence that had festered for decades, rage at the Jedi who had failed to detect him, contempt for the Republic he'd corrupted from within. It was an assault designed to obliterate the mind and soul of anyone who faced it. Dream stood unmoved in the center of the storm. Interesting, he observed calmly, as if studying an academic curiosity rather than facing an attack that had destroyed powerful Force users. You channel emotion as power, raw feeling given destructive form. But emotions are my domain, Sidious. Every feeling you weaponize, I have witnessed in the dreams of countless beings across infinite realities. Your hatred is not special. Your malevolence is not unique. You are simply another being who believes dark passion makes you exceptional. Sidious's attack intensified, Force lightning crackling from his fingertips to strike at this insolent entity. The blue-white energy enveloped Dream's form and passed through harmlessly, as if striking fog. I am not truly here, Dream explained, his projection flickering but not dissipating. What you see is a manifestation I maintain as courtesy. My actual existence resides in the dreaming, where your Force cannot reach. You can destroy this projection, but I will simply reform it. You cannot harm what you cannot truly touch. The Sith Lord ceased his assault, recognizing futility. His mind, trained in patience and long-term strategy, quickly shifted approaches. Then we appear to be at an impasse. You cannot harm me and I cannot harm you. Perhaps negotiation is in order. There is nothing to negotiate, Dream stated. You will cease manipulating Anakin Skywalker's dreams, or I will ensure every night you sleep is filled with visions of your own failure. I will show you the futures where your plans collapse, where the Jedi discover your identity before your trap is sprung, where Anakin rejects your offer and brings you to justice. I will make your sleeping hours a waking nightmare until you release your hold on his unconscious mind. Sidious considered this threat with the care of someone who had spent a lifetime managing risks. You assume I sleep. The dark side sustains me, provides energy beyond mortal limitations. I can go weeks without rest if necessary. Everyone sleeps eventually, Dream said with the patience of eternity. Even Sith lords, even beings sustained by dark side power. When you do and you will, I will be waiting. And your dreams, Sidious, will be... The Sith Lord's yellow eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. If you truly had power over my dreams, you would have used it already. You're constrained by rules, limitations you cannot violate. I recognize the pattern. You're bound by your nature, just as the Force users are bound by theirs. You cannot directly kill, cannot truly interfere with free will, cannot violate whatever cosmic laws govern the endless. Am I wrong? Dream's silence confirmed the accuracy of Sidious's analysis. I thought not, Palpatine said with satisfaction. You are powerful but constrained. You can show visions, manipulate dreams, perhaps even drive beings to madness through nightmares, but you cannot force outcomes. You cannot prevent me from continuing my plans. You can only observe and hope that beings make different choices when shown truth. Truth is often sufficient, Dream replied. Anakin Skywalker now knows you are Sith. He has seen the futures his fear leads toward. He understands that his nightmares of Padme's death are partially your creation. This changes everything, Sidious. Your careful manipulation has been exposed. Your patient corruption revealed. The Chosen One knows the truth. But Sidious smiled a genuine expression of dark amusement. Does he? And who will he tell? The Jedi Council. Who doesn't trust him? Obi-Wan. Who will demand proof of such an extraordinary claim? Padme. Who will be horrified that her husband has been confiding in a being from another reality rather than her. The Sith Lord's confidence was absolute. You have given young Skywalker a burden of knowledge he cannot easily share. Knowledge without proof is paranoia. The more he insists I am Sith without evidence, the more the Council will question his stability. You may have inadvertently accelerated his isolation rather than prevented it. Dream's ancient features remained neutral, but internally he acknowledged the strategic truth in Sidious's assessment. He had shown Anakin reality through dreams, but dreams were not evidence. Visions were not proof. The Jedi Council would require more than a claim based on supernatural revelation from an entity they barely understood. Then I will provide proof, Dream stated. How? Sidious challenged. By showing them dreams? By claiming insight into my sleeping mind? The Jedi already distrust dreams as unreliable. They suppress emotions and attachments precisely because they fear how easily feelings can deceive. You have chosen the worst possible allies, Dream Lord. An order that fundamentally distrusts the very realm you govern. The Jedi are learning, Dream said, slowly, painfully, but they are beginning to understand that their suppression of emotions and dreams has weakened them. Obi-Wan questions. Even Mace Windu recognizes that something fundamental has been missing from their approach. I am teaching them, Sidious. Showing them that dreams are not distractions but insights, that emotions are not weaknesses but essential data, that their code has left them vulnerable to precisely the kind of manipulation you excel at. And by the time they learn, it will be too late, Sidious countered. My plans are nearly complete. The Clone Wars grind toward their inevitable conclusion. Order 66 awaits activation. The trap closes on the Jedi whether they understand dreams or not. You cannot stop what has already been set in motion. Order 66, Dream repeated, and now there was steel in his voice. The command that will turn the clone army against their Jedi generals. Embedded in their conditioning, hidden even from the clones themselves until activation, I have walked through the dreams of clone troopers, Sidious, seen the fragmentary memories of their creation on Camino, the behavioral chips that will override their loyalty when you give the command. Did you truly believe such a secret could be hidden from the King of Dreams? For the first time, Sidious's confidence wavered. You, the clone's dreams revealed. Everything, Dream confirmed. The inhibitor chips, the contingency protocols, the systematic massacre you have planned for the moment the Jedi are most vulnerable. I know it all, Sidious, and I will ensure the right beings learn of it before your trap can spring. The Sith Lord's face twisted with rage. Then I will accelerate my plans. Execute Order 66 immediately, before you can. And lose the war? Dream interrupted. You need the Separatists defeated. Need the Republic weakened and desperate. Need Anakin Skywalker pushed to his breaking point before you reveal yourself. Execute Order 66 prematurely, and the Jedi survive in sufficient numbers to threaten your empire. Your carefully orchestrated timeline collapses. You know this, Sidious. Which means you cannot act on your threats any more than I can simply kill you in your sleep. The two beings, Sith Lord and Dream Lord, faced each other in Palpatine's office, each recognizing the other's power and limitations. A stalemate born of opposing forces, neither able to destroy the other, both capable of disrupting the other's purposes. Finally, Sidious spoke, his tone shifting to something approaching respect. It seems we are evenly matched in our constraints. You cannot kill me. I cannot harm you. You cannot force the Jedi to believe your warnings. I cannot continue manipulating Skywalker without your interference. What do you propose? Nothing, Dream said simply. I propose nothing, because I make no bargains with those who weaponize suffering. You will continue your plans, and I will continue opposing them through the only means available to me, truth revealed through dreams. The beings of this galaxy will make their own choices based on what their sleeping minds show them. This is as it should be. Then we are enemies, Sidious stated. We were always enemies, Dream corrected. From the moment you began corrupting the dreaming for your purposes. But understand this, Darth Sidious, I am patient in ways your mortal mind cannot comprehend. I have existed since the first conscious being slept, and I will exist until the last dream fades. Your empire, should you succeed in creating it, will rise and fall. Your power will peak and decline. Your name will be remembered and forgotten, but dreams will endure. And in those dreams, the truth of what you are will never die. Dream's projection began to dissolve, fading back into the dreaming. His final words echoed through Palpatine's office. Every being you oppress will dream of freedom. Every Jedi you murder will haunt the nightmares of those who survive. Every atrocity you commit will be recorded in the sleeping consciousness of the galaxy. You may rule the waking world, Sidious, but the dreaming will remember. And memory, even in dreams, has power you cannot destroy. Then he was gone, leaving Palpatine alone in his office with a new variable to account for an enemy who could not be killed, could not be corrupted, could not be controlled or manipulated. An enemy who had intimate knowledge of his plans and the means to reveal them, albeit indirectly. The Sith Lord stood silently for long moments, his brilliant mind calculating new strategies, adjusting timelines, considering how to accelerate certain elements while delaying others. Dream of the Endless represented a genuine threat, perhaps the first such threat Sidious had faced in decades. Interesting, Palpatine finally murmured, a cold smile crossing his features. A worthy opponent at last. Very well, Dream Lord. Let us see whose vision of the future prevails, mine, shaped through careful manipulation and overwhelming power, or yours, revealed through dreams that most dismiss as fantasy. I accept this challenge. He returned to his desk, already composing new orders, adjusting strategies, preparing contingencies. The game had changed, but Darth Sidious had not become the galaxy's most successful Sith Lord by failing to adapt to new threats. And in the Dream watched with ancient patience, knowing that the real battle had only just begun. The Jedi Council chamber filled with unprecedented tension. Masters who had fought across the galaxy now gathered, some in person, others through holographic projection, to address revelations that challenged everything they thought they understood about the war, the Republic, and their own order. Yoda sat in his customary seat, but his usual serene composure had given way to something approaching distress. Beside him, Mace Windu stood with arms crossed, his expression carved from stone. Obi-Wan paced a tell that revealed how deeply troubled he was. Anakin stood at the center, flanked by Ahsoka, both of them waiting for the Council's response to the claims they'd brought. "Let me understand this correctly," Mace Windu said, his voice tight with controlled skepticism. "An entity claiming to be the embodiment of dreams itself revealed to you, through visions experienced during sleep, that Chancellor Palpatine is the Sith Lord we've been searching for. The same Chancellor who has led the Republic through this war, who the Senate trusts implicitly, who has been nothing but supportive of the Jedi Order for over a decade." "Yes, Master," Anakin confirmed, his voice steady despite the weight of what he was claiming. "I know how it sounds. But the visions Dream showed me, they weren't like Force visions. They were deeper, more real. I saw Palpatine as Darth Sidious. I saw possible futures where I fall to the dark side serving him. I saw his voice caught. I saw what my fear would cause if I let it control me." Obi-Wan stopped pacing to face his former Padawan. "Anakin, I believe you experienced something profound. The entity I encountered certainly demonstrated abilities unlike anything in Jedi records, but visions, even vivid ones, are not evidence. We cannot accuse the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic based on dreams." "They weren't just dreams," Ahsoka interjected, earning a reproachful look from several council members. She pressed on anyway. "I spoke with Dream in the meditation gardens. He didn't feel like a Force phenomenon or a manifestation of the dark side. He felt true, like something fundamental to existence itself. Met this dream many of us have," Yoda acknowledged, his ears drooping. "Disturbed by his claims we are, but disturbed we must be, if consider we do that the Chancellor, Sith he is." Ki-Adi-Mundi's holographic form leaned forward. The entity also claimed knowledge of Order 66, an alleged protocol embedded in the clone troopers that would turn them against us. "Has anyone investigated this claim?" "I examined the dreams of several troopers in my battalion," Shakti reported, her expression troubled. "What I found was fragmented memories of their conditioning on Kamino, references to inhibitor chips and behavioral protocols that go beyond standard military training, but nothing definitive." Nothing that proves a murder protocol exists. But something's there, Anakin pressed. Something the clones themselves don't fully understand. Dream wouldn't lie about this. He said he's incapable of lying in the dreaming. Or that's what he wants us to believe, Mace Windu countered. We know nothing about this entity's true nature or motives. For all we know, it could be a separatist weapon designed to sow discord and make us doubt our own leadership. It confronted General Grievous in his sleep, Obi-Wan noted. Showed him visions of his past life as Quimane Jai Shilal, forced him to confront what he's become. Grievous has been notably more erratic in recent engagements. Our intelligence suggests he's questioning his loyalty to Count Dooku. Would a separatist weapon undermine their own general? Plo Koon's hologram spoke up. We're circling the fundamental question. Is Chancellor Palpatine a Sith Lord? Everything else, the dreams, the entity, the clone protocols, stems from that central claim. So how do we investigate without triggering a constitutional crisis if we're wrong? The council fell silent, each member wrestling with the implications. Accusing Palpatine without evidence would divide the Republic at its most vulnerable moment. But failing to investigate if the accusation was true would doom them all. There is one approach, Obi-Wan said slowly, an idea forming. Palpatine has always taken special interest in Anakin. If he is Sith, he's been grooming Anakin for years, trying to pull him toward the dark side. What if we use that against him? What if Anakin plays the role Palpatine expects, the conflicted Jedi struggling with attachment, the warrior frustrated by council restrictions, the student seeking guidance his masters won't provide? Anakin's eyes widened. You want me to get close to him? Not think no, Obi-Wan clarified. Be honest about your struggles, Anakin. Your fears for Padme, your frustrations with the council, your questions about the code. These are genuine feelings. Share them with Palpatine as you have before. But this time, observe his responses carefully. If he is Sith, he will reveal himself through his counsel. He won't be able to resist guiding you toward darkness. That's incredibly dangerous, Mace Windu objected. We'd be deliberately exposing Anakin to potential Sith corruption. Anakin's already exposed, Shakti countered. If Palpatine is Sidious, he's been working on Anakin for over a decade. At least this way, Anakin goes in forewarned and aware of the manipulation. Yoda closed his eyes, reaching deep into the Force for guidance. When he opened them again, his expression was grave. A test, this could be, for Skywalker and for Palpatine both. But careful, we must be. Easy to fall. Young Skywalker is tempting. The dark side remains, even with knowledge of manipulation. I can do it, Anakin said, his voice firm despite the fear coiling in his stomach. Dreams showed me what I could become if I let fear control me. I won't let that happen. I'll be careful, but I'll find the truth. Mace Windu studied Anakin for a long moment, then nodded reluctantly. Very well, but you'll report everything to the council. Every conversation, every suggestion Palpatine makes, every moment you feel pulled toward darkness. At the first sign you're being compromised, we pull you out. Agreed? Agreed, Anakin confirmed. And what of Dream itself? Ki-Adi-Mundi asked. This entity has inserted itself into our affairs, revealed information that may or may not be true, and claims abilities we cannot verify or counter. What do we do about that? Nothing, Yoda said simply. Stop it. We cannot. Harm it, we cannot. Accept its presence, we must. And evaluate the information it provides with appropriate caution. If its warnings prove true, the ancient master's voice trailed off, then resumed with iron determination. Then grateful we should be that something beyond Sidious's manipulation entered our war. Across Coruscant, in the industrial depths where Dream had established his presence, the Lord of Dreams stood in a vast factory space that had been abandoned since the war began. Around him, the air shimmered with impossible geometries as the dreaming bled into waking reality, creating a space that existed partially in both states simultaneously. He was not alone. Dozens of beings had gathered, individuals from across Coruscant whom Dream had contacted through their sleep, clone troopers who dreamed of the inhibitor chips in their brains, refugees who dreamed of lost homes and wondered why the war continued, Senate staffers who dreamed of corruption they witnessed but couldn't prove, even a few Jedi Padawans who had been drawn to the dreaming's call, recognizing it as something fundamentally true even if their masters would disapprove. You have all felt it, Dream addressed the assembly, his voice carrying to every ear without needing to raise volume. The wrongness, the sense that this war serves purposes beyond what you're told. The nightmares that feel like warnings rather than mere fear. I have brought you here because you all dream of truth, and truth is what I offer. A clone trooper, CT-5555, called Fives by his brothers, spoke up. I've had dreams about the chip, the one they put in our heads on Camino. In the dreams I see what it's for, what it will make us do. But when I'm awake, I can't quite remember. It's like something blocks the memory. That is precisely what it does, Dream confirmed. The inhibitor chips contain behavioral protocols and memory suppression. They ensure that when Order 66 is activated, you will turn on your Jedi generals without hesitation, and your conscious mind will justify the action as correct and necessary. But your dreaming mind knows the truth. Your unconscious awareness recognizes the violation of your free will. Horror spread through the gathered clones. Several touched their heads reflexively, as if they could feel the chip beneath their skull. Can they be removed? Another clone asked, his voice tight with fear and anger. Yes, Dream replied, but removal requires specialized medical equipment and knowledge of their location and function. I have provided this information to Jedi healers who are trustworthy. They will begin removing chips from willing troopers quietly, without alerting those who would oppose such action. A Twi'lek refugee stepped forward. You said the war serves hidden purposes. What purposes? Who benefits from so much death? Darth Sidious, Dream stated, and the name sent ripples of unease through the assembly. A Sith Lord who orchestrates both sides of this conflict, manipulating Republic and Separatists toward his ultimate goal, the destruction of the Jedi and the transformation of the Republic into an empire under his absolute control. He hides in plain sight, wearing the face of a trusted leader while working toward galactic tyranny. Who? Fives demanded. If you know who this Sith Lord is, tell us. Let us stop him. Knowing without proof accomplishes nothing, Dream explained. He is too well positioned, too carefully protected. Direct accusation would be dismissed, and those who accused him would be eliminated as threats. No, this Sith Lord must be exposed through his own actions, revealed in ways that cannot be denied or dismissed. Then what are we supposed to do? A young Jedi Padawan asked, frustration evident. Just wait while he completes his plans? Ah, You resist, Dream said simply, through small acts of awareness and defiance. Clones, you warn your brothers about the chips. Encourage them to have the chips removed or disabled. Refugees, you speak truth about the war's costs. Remind others what they're fighting for beyond territory and politics. Jedi, you question the code's restrictions. Embrace your emotions as information rather than weakness. Everyone, you refuse to let hope die. You dream of better futures and work to make them real. That's not a plan, someone objected. That's just living, trying to do right. Exactly, Dream agreed. That is precisely the point. Sidious's power comes from fear, from despair, from beings who stop believing change is possible and accept tyranny as inevitable. Every act of resistance, every moment of hope maintained despite darkness, every choice to preserve your humanity in the face of war, these are victories he cannot counter through force or manipulation. The battle for the galaxy's soul is not fought with lightsabers and warships. It is fought in the hearts and dreams of every being who chooses light over darkness, hope over despair. Dream gestured, and the space around them shifted. Images appeared, not visions of the future, but glimpses of the present happening elsewhere in the galaxy. Jedi healing wounded civilians. Clone troopers risking themselves to save innocents. Senators arguing passionately for peace. Ordinary beings across thousands of worlds refusing to surrender their compassion to the war's brutality. This, Dream said, indicating the images, is what Sidious fears. Not the Jedi's lightsabers or the Republic's armies, but the enduring capacity for goodness in beings who refuse to become what the war demands. He can orchestrate battles and manipulate governments, but he cannot destroy hope unless you surrender it willingly. The Assembly absorbed this, and Dream felt the shift in their collective consciousness from passive fear to active determination. They were still afraid, still uncertain, but now they understood that their choices mattered, that even small acts of resistance against the war's dehumanization served a larger purpose. I will continue to walk through your dreams, Dream told them as the gathering began to disperse. I will show you truth when you sleep, reveal what your waking minds cannot or will not see. But remember, dreams are only valuable if you act on them when you wake. Otherwise, they are merely pretty lies you tell yourself to endure another day. As the beings departed back into Coruscant's endless cityscape, Fives approached Dream directly. You said Jedi healers could remove the chips. How do I find them? I want this thing out of my head. I want my brothers free too. Dream placed a pale hand on the clone's shoulder. Go to the Jedi Temple. Ask for Shakti. Tell her Dream sends you, and that you're ready to reclaim your free will. She will understand. Fives nodded, gratitude and determination warring in his expression. Thank you. I don't fully understand what you are, but thank you for caring about us. Most beings see clones as property, tools to be used and discarded. You treat us like we matter. All beings matter, Dream said quietly. All who dream are equal in the dreaming, regardless of origin or nature. Clone, human, alien, Jedi, Sith. Every conscious mind deserves to understand its own dreams and make choices free from manipulation. This is my purpose and my responsibility. I cannot be otherwise. The clone trooper departed, and Dream stood alone in the abandoned factory that existed partially in the dreaming and partially in reality. He felt the weight of what he'd set in motion, revealing truth to beings whose actions would ripple across the galaxy, opposing a Sith Lord whose plans were nearly complete, teaching the Jedi to value the very aspects of consciousness their code taught them to suppress. The outcome remained uncertain. Dreams showed possibilities, not certainties. But Dream had done what he always did, provided truth, offered clarity, and trusted that dreamers, when properly informed, would make choices that served consciousness rather than corruption. Whether it would be enough to prevent Sidious's triumph and Anakin's fall remained to be seen. But for the first time since the Clone Wars began, the galaxy's collective nightmare had been challenged by something the Sith Lord hadn't anticipated. An endless being whose very nature opposed the weaponization of fear and suffering that Sidious's plans required. The battle for the galaxy's dreams had truly begun. Chancellor Palpatine's office had become familiar territory for Anakin Skywalker over the years. He'd spent countless hours here, discussing strategy, philosophy, and personal struggles that he couldn't share with the Jedi Council. But tonight, as he entered at the Chancellor's invitation, every detail felt sinister. The Sith artifacts he'd never noticed before, disguised as Republic antiquities, the way shadows pooled in corners despite adequate lighting, the subtle wrongness in the Force that he'd dismissed for years as stress from war. "Anakin, my boy." Palpatine greeted him with grandfatherly warmth, rising from his desk. "Thank you for coming. I know your duties keep you busy, but I value our conversations. You're one of the few people who speaks honestly with me rather than telling me what they think I want to hear." "Thank you, Chancellor," Anakin replied, settling into the familiar chair across from Palpatine's desk. He forced himself to relax, to play the role Obi-Wan had suggested, the conflicted Jedi seeking guidance. Not difficult, since his conflicts were genuine even if his awareness of them had changed. "Actually, I was hoping we could talk about some things that have been troubling me." Palpatine's expression shifted to concern, but Anakin noticed something he'd never consciously registered before, a flicker in the man's eyes, like a predator catching scent of wounded prey. "Of course. You know you can tell me anything, Anakin. What troubles you?" "The nightmares haven't stopped," Anakin began, which was true. Even after Dream's intervention, the visions of Padme dying still came, though now he understood them differently. "Every night, I see her dying in childbirth. I see myself unable to save her despite all my power. The Council says I should release my attachment, but..." His voice cracked genuinely. "I can't lose her, Chancellor. I won't." "Of course not," Palpatine soothed, leaning forward with practiced empathy. "The Jedi's teachings about attachment are well-intentioned, but ultimately flawed. Love is not weakness, Anakin. It's what makes us human, what gives us purpose beyond cold philosophy. Your attachment to your wife is your greatest strength, not a flaw to be excised." Anakin felt the wrongness in those words, the subtle poison wrapped in apparent wisdom. Dream had shown him exactly this pattern. Palpatine validating his attachments while steering him toward possessive obsession rather than healthy love. "But the dreams feel like warnings," Anakin continued, watching Palpatine's reaction carefully. "Like prophecy. What if they're showing me the future? What if she really will die, and I'm powerless to stop it?" "Perhaps," Palpatine said slowly, and Anakin saw calculation behind the sympathetic facade. "The Force does provide glimpses of possible futures, but here's what the Jedi won't tell you. My young friend, the future is not fixed. If you have sufficient power, you can change what seems inevitable. You can protect those you love from even death itself. There it was. The hook. The offer of power to prevent loss, precisely as Dream had warned. How? Anakin asked, allowing desperation to color his voice. The Jedi say death is natural, that I should accept. The Jedi are fools, Palpatine interrupted, and for a moment his mask slipped yellow, flashing in his eyes before the grandfatherly blue returned. They cling to dogma written millennia ago by beings who feared power rather than embracing it. But there are other paths, Anakin. Other teachings that don't require you to suppress your emotions and sacrifice those you love for abstract principles. What teachings? Anakin pressed, though his stomach churned with the knowledge of where this led. Palpatine stood, moving to the window overlooking Coruscant's glittering nightscape. Have you ever heard of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Anakin's blood ran cold. This was it, the moment Dream had shown him. The beginning of his fall if he followed the script Palpatine expected. No, he replied carefully. I thought not, Palpatine continued, his voice taking on a storyteller's cadence. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise he could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life. He had such knowledge of the dark side that he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. He could actually save people from death? Anakin asked, recognizing the words from Dream's visions but needing to hear them spoken aloud. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural, Palpatine said, turning to face Anakin directly. His eyes held yellow now, not bothering to hide it. He became so powerful the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power, which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew. Then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. Is it possible to learn this power? Anakin asked, playing his role while his mind raced with the implications of what was being revealed. Palpatine smiled, and the Sith Lord emerged fully. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Anakin felt the dark side radiating from Palpatine now, no longer concealed. The truth Dream had shown him was undeniable. Darth Sidious stood before him, the puppet master who had orchestrated the Clone Wars, and he was offering exactly what he'd promised: power to prevent death, salvation for Padme, at the cost of Anakin's soul. You're Sith, Anakin stated, his hand moving toward his lightsaber. I am many things, Sidious replied calmly, making no aggressive moves. Sith, Chancellor, your friend, if you'll allow it. I have watched you grow, Anakin, seen your potential when the Jedi Council saw only danger. I have been the one constant in your life who encouraged rather than restricted you. And now, when you need power most desperately, I offer it freely. No manipulation, no deception, simply choice. You've been manipulating me for years, Anakin countered, but he didn't draw his weapon. Not yet. My nightmares, you've been feeding them, making me fear Padme's death so I'd be desperate enough to turn to you. Sidious's expression showed genuine surprise. Interesting. Someone has been enlightening you. Let me guess, this dream entity the Jedi have been so troubled by? It showed you visions of my identity, my plans? It showed me the truth, Anakin said. Did it? Sidious challenged. Or did it show you one possible truth among many? Yes, I have guided your path, Anakin. Yes, I have encouraged certain fears while suppressing others, but I did not create your love for Padme. I did not fabricate your frustration with the Council. I did not invent your power or your potential. These are real, and they matter more than the methods by which I helped you recognize them. You orchestrated a galactic war, Anakin said, his voice rising. Billions dead, entire worlds devastated, all to destroy the Jedi and seize power. I orchestrated the end of corruption and stagnation, Sidious corrected, his tone passionate now. The Republic was dying, Anakin. The Jedi had become complacent peacekeepers who maintained an unjust status quo rather than fighting for true justice. I am bringing order to chaos, strength to weakness, clarity to confusion. Yes, war is terrible, but what emerges from it will be an empire where beings like you, powerful, decisive, unafraid to act, will bring lasting peace and security. At what cost? Anakin demanded. The Jedi Order destroyed? Democracy replaced with tyranny? Clones programmed to murder their generals? That's your peace? Sidious's eyes narrowed. The dream told you about Order 66. Unfortunate. That was meant to be a surprise. He seemed to consider his options, then shrugged. No matter. The clones are tools, Anakin. Useful tools, but ultimately replaceable. If some have their chips removed before activation, it merely means we deploy alternative methods. The Jedi will fall regardless. Unless I stop you right now, Anakin said, his hand finally gripping his lightsaber hilt. You won't, Sidious stated with absolute confidence. Because despite knowing what I am, despite understanding my methods, you still need what only I can offer. Padme's life hangs in the balance, and the Jedi cannot save her. Only I have the knowledge to prevent her death. Kill me, and that knowledge dies too. Your wife dies. Your children grow up without a mother. Can you accept that price for your principles? Anakin's hand trembled on his weapon. This was the moment Dream had warned him about the terrible choice between love and duty, between what was right and what was necessary to protect those he cherished. Don't do it, Anakin. The voice came from the shadows, and Dream of the Endless materialized in Palpatine's office, his pale form stark against the darkness. Sidious spun, dark side energy crackling around him, but Dream remained unperturbed. You, Sidious hissed, how dare you interfere? I interfere in nothing, Dream stated. I simply observe. But Anakin Skywalker stands at a crossroads, and he deserves clarity about the choice before him. So allow me to show you both what his decision creates. The office dissolved. All three of them, Anakin, Sidious, and Dream, stood in a vision space that existed outside normal time and space. Around them, futures unfolded like branching paths. One path showed Anakin striking down Sidious here and now. Padme lived, but died later in childbirth due to natural complications. Anakin raised Luke and Leia alone, struggling with grief but remaining in the light. The Clone Wars ended differently, bloodier, but the Jedi survived. Another path showed Anakin accepting Sidious's offer. He became Darth Vader. His wife died by his own hand in rage, and his children were hidden from him. The Empire rose, the Jedi were slaughtered, and for decades he served in torment until his own son redeemed him at the cost of his life. A third path appeared, one where Anakin refused both options. He called for help. The Jedi Council arrived, and together they overwhelmed Sidious through numbers and preparation. Padme survived childbirth with complications but recovered. The war ended. "These are the futures your choice creates," Dream explained. "Not certainties, but probabilities based on the path you choose tonight." Sidious offers power at the cost of everything that makes you who you are. Refusing his offer risks Padme but preserves your soul. The third path, trusting your allies, accepting that you cannot control everything, offers no guarantees but maintains hope. "This is manipulation," Sidious snarled. "You show him futures designed to make him choose your preferred outcome." "I show him truth," Dream replied calmly. "The truth he asked for when he agreed to be bait for your manipulation. The truth that you, Sidious, would never willingly reveal that your promises are hollow, that Plagueis's power doesn't truly exist, that Anakin's fall would serve only your ambitions and destroy everything he loves." Anakin stared at the branching futures, his mind reeling. "Death comes for all mortals," Dream said gently. "Your wife, your children, even you all will die eventually. This is the nature of existence. The question is not how to prevent death forever, but how to live honorably until death arrives." Sidious offers false promises of immortality through dark side power. "I offer only truth, that love means accepting the beloved's mortality, not trying to control it." The vision space dissolved, returning them to Palpatine's office. Anakin stood between Dream and Sidious, literally and metaphorically torn between two opposing forces. "Choose, Anakin," Sidious commanded, dark side energy building around him. "Choose power and save your wife, or choose the Jedi's failure and watch her die." "Choose yourself," Dream countered. "Not power or duty, but who you truly wish to be. The choice defines you more than the outcome." Anakin's comm link chimed. He activated it reflexively, and Obi-Wan's urgent voice came through. "Anakin," the council felt a disturbance. "Are you with Palpatine? Are you safe?" It was the moment of decision. Call for help and risk everything on trust and allies. Strike down Sidious alone and accept the consequences, or embrace the dark side for power to prevent loss. Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one, stood at the fulcrum of galactic destiny and made his choice. "Master Kenobi," Anakin spoke into the comlink, his voice steady despite the storm of emotion within him. "I'm with Chancellor Palpatine, and you were right about everything. He's the Sith Lord we've been searching for. Bring the Council. Bring everyone. It's time to end this." Sidious's face contorted with rage, yellow eyes blazing with dark side fury. "Foolish boy, you've chosen death for your wife." "No," Anakin replied, igniting his lightsaber, the blue blade casting harsh light across the office. "I've chosen to trust the people who care about me instead of the monster who's been manipulating me since I was 9 years old. Dream showed me the truth. Sidious, your promises are lies. You don't know how to prevent death. You're just offering what you think I need to hear." "Of course I don't know," Sidious snarled, abandoning all pretense. "Plagueis died before teaching me that secret, but I would have found it given time and motivation. Your wife would have been the test subject. Now she's simply another casualty of your misguided loyalty to the Jedi." Dark side lightning erupted from Sidious's fingertips, blue-white energy that could kill in seconds. But Anakin was ready, his lightsaber intercepting the attack, deflecting the lightning back toward its source. Years of combat experience and raw power combined. The Chosen One fully engaged against the Sith Master. Dream watched from the edge of the battle, his form flickering as Sidious's lightning passed through him harmlessly. This was always how it would end, Sidious. Your plans required Anakin's fall, his transformation into Darth Vader. Without that, your empire is built on significantly weaker foundations. I don't need him! Sidious roared, his attack intensifying. The office windows shattered from the force pressure. Furniture exploded. The dark side manifested physically as shadows that writhed and struck like living things. I built this plan over decades. I orchestrated the Clone Wars. I manipulated the Senate. One Jedi's choice doesn't undo everything. Doesn't it? Dream asked and gestured. The dreaming bled into reality around them. Suddenly, Sidious found himself fighting not just Anakin, but manifestations of all his victims' nightmares. Clone troopers who dreamed of the chips in their heads formed from shadow and struck at him. Jedi who died in the war materialized to defend Anakin. Civilians from destroyed worlds wailed their anguish as their presence disrupted Sidious's concentration. This is cheating, Sidious shrieked, his force lightning becoming wild and uncontrolled as he fought on multiple fronts simultaneously. You said you couldn't interfere. You said you were bound by rules. I am not interfering with reality, Dream stated calmly. I am merely allowing the dreaming to overlap with waking. All these beings genuinely existed. Their nightmares genuinely haunt the collective unconscious of this galaxy. I am simply giving form to what already exists in dreams. If you find yourself overwhelmed by the psychological weight of your atrocities, that is consequence, not interference. The office door exploded inward. Mace Windu entered first, his purple blade ignited, followed by Obi-Wan, Kit Fisto, and Agent Kolar. Behind them came more Jedi Masters and Knights who'd been summoned by the emergency call, all converging on the revelation that the Sith Lord had been hiding in plain sight for over a decade. You're under arrest, Chancellor, Mace Windu declared, his voice like iron. In the name of the Galactic Senate and the Jedi Order. Sidious laughed, a sound of pure malevolence. Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? I am the Senate. I control the clone army. One transmission from me and Order 66 activates across the galaxy. You cannot arrest me without triggering the very massacre you seek to prevent. About that, a new voice spoke from the doorway. Fives entered, flanked by dozens of clone troopers, but these weren't the obedient soldiers Sidious had engineered. These were brothers who'd had their inhibitor chips removed, who'd reclaimed their free will, who'd been warned by Dream about the trap hidden in their conditioning. We've been spreading word through the Gar, Fives announced, his voice carrying military precision despite addressing the leader of the Republic he was supposed to serve. Thousands of troopers have had the chips removed. Thousands more have been warned. If you try to activate Order 66, you'll find compliance significantly lower than your programming anticipated. We're soldiers, not slaves, and we choose our own allegiances. Sidious's face twisted with an emotion rare for a Sith Lord, genuine fear. His carefully orchestrated plan was collapsing around him. Without Anakin as his apprentice, without reliable control of the clone army, without the element of surprise for the Jedi Purge, his path to absolute power had become significantly more difficult. You've destroyed years of work, he hissed at Dream. Decades of planning, manipulation, sacrifice, all undone by your meddling. Not undone, Dream corrected. Revealed. There's a difference. You built your empire on lies, manipulation, and exploitation of suffering. I simply showed beings the truth of their circumstances and trusted them to make informed choices. That they chose resistance over collaboration is testament to the fundamental goodness you believed you could corrupt out of existence. Sidious made his decision with the ruthlessness that had made him the most dangerous Sith in generations. He wouldn't allow capture. Better to destroy everything than surrender. His power erupted in a devastating force storm, dark side energy that warped reality itself. Lightning and telekinetic force combined into a maelstrom of destruction. The office, the building, everything within 100 meters began to tear apart under the assault. If I fall, Sidious roared above the chaos, I take you all with me. The Jedi raised their defenses, lightsabers deflecting what they could, the Force shielding against the rest. But Sidious's power was immense, channeled through decades of dark side mastery and absolute rage at his plan's destruction. Windows shattered throughout the Senate building. Walls cracked. The structure groaned under stress it was never designed to withstand. Then another presence arrived, one that had been listening through the dreams of everyone involved, waiting for the precise moment when intervention was most needed. Yoda appeared in the doorway, his small form radiating power that dwarfed his physical size. "End this, you will not, Sidious. Face your judgment, you must." The Grand Master raised his hands, and the Force responded. Light met darkness in the most fundamental confrontation, 800 years of Jedi wisdom and discipline against decades of Sith malevolence and hate. The energies clashed with such force that reality itself seemed to strain. But Yoda wasn't alone. Every Jedi in the building reached out through the Force, adding their strength to his. The light side manifested as a unified defense against Sidious's destructive assault, holding back the storm, containing the damage, protecting the innocent beings throughout the Senate district who would have died in the crossfire. "It's over, Sidious," Mace Windu stated, his blade moving in forms perfected over decades. "You've lost. Surrender and face trial. Resist and face destruction." Sidious laughed even as his power was slowly contained and suppressed by the combined might of the Jedi Order. "You think this ends anything? The galaxy wanted what I offered: order, security, strength. I simply gave them what they secretly desired. Kill me, and someone else will rise to provide what the weak and fearful crave." "Perhaps," Obi-Wan said, moving to stand beside Anakin, "but not today. And not through you." The battle reached its conclusion with Sidious-contained force suppression fields, erected by Jedi working in concert, his power sealed away, his physical form restrained by technology designed for Force users gone rogue. The Sith Lord who had orchestrated galactic war found himself imprisoned by the very systems he'd corrupted. "This isn't over," Sidious hissed as they led him away. "My followers remain. My influence persists. The Senate will resist your coup. Yes, that's what they'll call it. Jedi arresting the democratically elected Chancellor. You've created the very crisis I would have used to justify my empire." "Let the Senate decide," Mace Windu replied coldly. "We have evidence now. Your office is filled with Sith artifacts. Your records contain communications with Count Dooku and other separatist leaders. The clone chip conspiracy can be verified through medical examination. Truth is on our side, Sidious, something you've rarely had to face. As the Jedi led their prisoner away, Dream approached Anakin, who stood trembling with aftershock from the confrontation. You chose well, Anakin Skywalker. The futures I showed you, the one where you trusted your allies, this is that path. It will not be easy. There are consequences still to face. But you preserved who you are. Padme, Anakin said urgently. The visions of her dying were possibilities, not certainties, Dream interrupted gently. And now, significantly less probable. You changed the future by choosing not to grasp for absolute control. By accepting that you cannot prevent all loss, you paradoxically made loss less likely. This is the wisdom the Jedi Code tried to teach, though they taught it poorly. Obi-Wan placed a hand on Anakin's shoulder. We need to get you checked medically. The dark side energy in here. I'm fine, Anakin insisted, then paused. Actually, no, I'm not fine. I'm terrified. I'm angry. I'm confused about what happens next. But I'm also okay with that. For the first time in years, I'm not trying to suppress what I feel. I'm just letting it exist. That is growth. Dream acknowledged. The beginning of true wisdom, accepting your emotional reality rather than denying it. The Jedi Order has much to learn about balance. Perhaps recent events will teach them. Throughout the Senate building, chaos erupted as news spread. The Chancellor arrested, Jedi claiming he was a Sith Lord, clone troopers defying their chain of command. The carefully ordered structure of Republic governance trembling as its foundations were exposed as corrupt. But something else spread too. Something Dream felt rippling through the collective consciousness of Coruscant and beyond. Hope. Actual hope. Not the desperate kind that sustained beings through suffering, but genuine belief that change was possible, that evil could be opposed and defeated, that ordinary beings making brave choices mattered. The nightmares that had saturated the dreaming since the Clone Wars began started to shift. Not disappearing trauma doesn't vanish overnight, but changing character. Instead of helpless terror, beings dreamed of resistance. Instead of despair, they dreamed of possibility. The galaxy's collective unconscious was healing, slowly but perceptibly. Dream felt it all, and for the first time since arriving in this reality, allowed himself something approaching satisfaction. He had not prevented all suffering. He had not solved all problems. But he had done what the Endless always did, provided truth, maintained balance in the dreaming, and trusted that conscious beings, when properly informed, would make choices that served life over death, creation over destruction. What happens to you now? Anakin asked, turning to face the pale figure who had changed everything. Do you return to your realm? Leave our galaxy? I remain as long as I am needed, Dream replied. The war continues. Dooku and the Separatists still wage their campaign, though without Sidious orchestrating both sides. The Republic must rebuild its government without its hidden master. The Jedi must reform their order to address the weaknesses that made them vulnerable. And all beings must process the trauma of what they've experienced. These are tasks that require time, effort, and continued vigilance. So you'll stay, Ahsoka said, having entered during the confrontation's aftermath. Keep walking through our dreams, showing us truth we need to see? I will do what I have always done, Dream confirmed. Serve the dreaming. Maintain balance between hope and despair, wonder and nightmare, memory and oblivion. Whether that helps your specific causes is incidental to my purpose, but I am not displeased when truth serves justice." A commotion at the doorway drew their attention. Padme Amidala rushed in, flanked by Senate security, her face pale with shock and fear. "Anakin, I heard the Chancellor. Are you hurt? What's happening?" Anakin moved to embrace her, and Dream observed the reunion with ancient eyes that had witnessed infinite love stories across countless realities. This was why he served the dreaming, because beings like these, who loved fiercely despite mortal limitations, who chose hope over despair, who fought for each other and their ideals, they made consciousness meaningful. They made existence worth maintaining. "Come," Obi-Wan said to Dream, gesturing toward the exit. "The Council will want to speak with you, to understand what you are, what your continued presence means for the galaxy." "They may ask," Dream replied. "Whether they understand is another matter. But yes, I will speak with them." There is much yet to discuss about dreams, emotions, and the paths not taken. As they departed Palpatine's shattered office, leaving the cleanup to others, Dream looked back once at Anakin and Padme, two beings whose story had nearly ended in tragedy but had been given another chance through choices informed by truth rather than manipulated by fear. The future remained unwritten. Challenges awaited. But tonight, the galaxy's nightmares had been confronted. And for the first time in years, the collective unconscious dreamed of hope. It would have to be enough. The Jedi Temple's council chamber had never held such an unusual assembly. Masters sat in their traditional seats, but now they were joined by representatives from across the Republic, senators demanding answers, military officers seeking clarification, and at the center of it all, Dream of the Endless stood as both witness and participant in the reshaping of galactic governance. 3 weeks had passed since Palpatine's arrest. 3 weeks of investigations, revelations, and the slow, painful process of a civilization confronting how close it had come to tyranny. The Senate had dissolved into factions, some demanding Palpatine's immediate execution, others insisting on due process, and a small but vocal minority who refused to believe their beloved Chancellor was Sith at all. The Clone Wars continued, but differently. Without Sidious orchestrating both sides, the separatist movement fragmented. Dooku had gone into hiding after learning of his master's capture, and General Grievous had done something unprecedented. He'd simply stopped. The cyborg general's fleet held position in neutral space, neither attacking nor retreating, while Grievous himself remained silent to all communications. "The question before us," Senator Bail Organa addressed the assembly, "is what we do next. The Republic's government has been decapitated. The Jedi Order, no offense intended, lacks legitimacy to rule, and our military remains commanded by clone troopers whose loyalty we're still verifying after the chip revelations." "No offense taken," Mace Windu replied. "The Jedi have no desire to govern. We are peacekeepers, not politicians. But we recognize that the Republic needs stability, and quickly, before the separatists exploit this chaos." "Some of them already are," Admiral Yularen reported, his holographic form projected from the Outer Rim. "Several separatist systems have launched new offensives, believing the Republic is vulnerable without Palpatine's leadership. They're not entirely wrong." Yoda tapped his Geimer stick thoughtfully. "A question I pose. Continue the war, should we? Or use this moment? An opportunity for peace, it might be." "Peace with the separatists?" Senator Orn Freeta sputtered. "After everything they've done? The worlds they've destroyed?" "After everything we've done as well," Padme Amidala countered, her voice carrying the moral authority of someone who had fought for peace throughout the conflict. Both sides have committed atrocities in this war, but now we know it was orchestrated by a Sith Lord manipulating both governments. The Separatists didn't choose war any more than we did. They were pushed into it by Dooku and Sidious. Perhaps, knowing that truth, we can find common ground. The Lady Amidala speaks wisdom. Dream's voice cut through the debate, and all eyes turned to the pale figure who had remained silent until now. This war was engineered to serve purposes you're only beginning to understand. Sidious wanted the Republic and Separatists to destroy each other, to create such chaos and fear that beings would accept tyranny as preferable to uncertainty. By continuing the war now that its architect is imprisoned, you fulfill his purposes even in his absence. Then what do you suggest? Senator Mothma asked, genuinely curious about this entity's perspective. Truth, Dream replied simply. Tell the galaxy what happened. Reveal Sidious's identity, his manipulation of both sides, his orchestration of atrocities to fuel hatred between Republic and Separatist systems. Let the beings of this galaxy decide their allegiances based on truth rather than propaganda. You will find that many on both sides are tired of war and willing to negotiate when the manipulative pressure is removed. And if they're not, Mace Windu challenged, if the Separatists see this as weakness and press their advantage, then you fight, Dream said without hesitation. But you fight knowing the true nature of your conflict, not blind to the manipulation that started it. Consciousness requires awareness. Beings making informed choices, even difficult ones, are healthier than beings manipulated into actions they don't understand. That's a very philosophical position, Admiral Yularen observed dryly. But we deal in military realities, ships, troops, territory, which are all expressions of underlying psychological and social realities, Dream interrupted. Your ships are crewed by beings who dream. Your troops are individuals with hopes and fears. Your territory is populated by civilians who desperately want this war to end. Address the psychological reality, and the military reality will shift accordingly. Anakin, who had been standing silently near Obi-Wan, spoke up. Dream's right. I've been talking with the clone troopers who had their chips removed. They don't want to fight for a republic that was going to use them as assassins. But they also don't want to abandon the Jedi they've served beside. They want purpose beyond being weapons. If we can offer that, if we can reshape the Republic into something worth fighting for, we'll have loyalty that's genuine rather than programmed. Ahsoka nodded agreement. The Padawans I've spoken with feel the same way. We were raised to serve the Republic, but now we're questioning what that means. The Jedi Order needs to change too. Dream showed us that suppressing emotions and attachments didn't make us stronger. It made us blind to Sidious right in our midst. Dangerous words, young one, Ki-Adi-Mundi cautioned. The Jedi Code has guided us for millennia. And it failed, Shakti interrupted, her tone respectful but firm. We must acknowledge this. Our philosophy of detachment left us vulnerable to a Sith Lord who understood emotion and attachment better than we did. He exploited the very aspects of consciousness we taught ourselves to suppress. If we want to truly serve the Force, we need to embrace all of its expressions, light and shadow, peace and passion, serenity and emotion. The debate continued for hours, positions evolving as beings genuinely grappled with fundamental questions about governance, philosophy, and the nature of the society they wanted to build from the Republic's near collapse. Throughout it all, Dream observed with the patience of eternity, speaking only when his perspective could illuminate rather than dictate. He was not here to rule or command. The endless did not involve themselves in mortal governance. But he could offer truth, clarity, and the wisdom gathered from walking through countless civilizations' dreams across infinite realities. Finally, as the meeting drew toward adjournment, Bail Organa proposed a solution. What if we establish a transitional council? Representatives from the Senate, the Jedi, the military, and, he hesitated, then pressed on, beings who can verify truth through unconventional means, including Dream of the Endless, if he's willing to serve. Every eye turned to Dream, who had made no indication of wanting political involvement. I do not serve governments, Dream stated clearly. I serve the dreaming and all who dream. But I will offer counsel when requested, verify truth through dreams when necessary, and speak against actions that corrupt consciousness into suffering. If that is sufficient for your transitional council, I accept. If you require more direct involvement, you must find another. That's acceptable, Senator Organa confirmed, relief evident in his voice. Having access to truth verification alone would prevent the kind of deception Sidious used to rise to power. Then we have a starting framework, Padme said, standing to address the assembly with the regal bearing she developed as Queen of Naboo. A transitional council to govern while we establish new elections and constitutional reforms, a peace delegation to the separatist leadership, offering negotiations based on revelation of Sidious's manipulation, and a reformation of the Jedi Order to address the philosophical weaknesses that made them vulnerable. These are not small tasks, but they are necessary ones. Agreed, Mace Windu said, and other council members nodded. Even the skeptical senators recognized that dramatic change was required. The alternative was collapse into chaos or repetition of the patterns that had nearly destroyed them. As the assembly dispersed to begin implementing these decisions, Obi-Wan approached Dream with Anakin beside him. What you've done here, changing the course of the entire war, preventing Anakin's fall, exposing Sidious, it's unprecedented. How do we thank someone who claims to want nothing but truth? You don't thank me, Dream replied. You live according to the truths you've learned. Anakin, you've chosen to acknowledge your emotions rather than suppress them. Continue that path. Obi-Wan, you've begun questioning the Code's rigid doctrines. Pursue those questions to their conclusion. If you do these things, if you become better versions of yourselves through the awareness I've provided, that is thanks enough. And when you leave, Anakin asked, eventually you'll return to your realm, right? We'll be on our own again. I am always in the dreaming, Dream said. As long as you sleep, as long as you dream, I am accessible to those who understand how to reach that realm. The Jedi are beginning to learn that meditation and dreaming are complementary rather than contradictory, that the Force speaks through both waking visions and sleeping dreams. When you need counsel, when you seek truth, close your eyes and enter the space between consciousness and unconsciousness. I will be there. Ahsoka joined them, her young face thoughtful. Master Dream, can I call you that? I want to learn more about the dreaming, about how to access it intentionally, how to interpret dreams, how to use that knowledge to serve the Force more fully. Dream regarded the young Togruta with something approaching fondness. I am not master anything, Ahsoka Tano. I simply am what I am. But yes, I will teach those who wish to learn. The Jedi Order needs dreamers, beings who understand that consciousness operates on multiple levels, that wisdom comes from integrating all aspects of awareness rather than privileging some over others. I'll learn too, Anakin said firmly. If understanding dreams can prevent the kind of manipulation Sidious used on me, then every Jedi should study this. Not just Jedi, Dream corrected. All beings dream. All beings can benefit from understanding their own unconscious minds. What I offer is not secret knowledge for an elite few. It is fundamental wisdom about consciousness itself, available to anyone willing to pay attention to their dreams and take them seriously. Across Coruscant, in a secured facility designed to hold Force users, Darth Sidious sat in isolation, his power suppressed by technology and constant Jedi monitoring. But even in captivity, his mind worked, calculating possibilities and strategies for escape or revenge. When sleep finally claimed him despite his resistance, Dream was waiting. The Sith Lord found himself in a dream space that showed him every future his plans might have created, the empire he would have ruled, the suffering he would have caused, the eventual rebellion that would have destroyed everything he built. But also, more painful than any physical torture, he saw what he'd sacrificed to gain that power, the few genuine connections he'd made across his lifetime, the potential for redemption he'd rejected, the alternative lives he might have lived if ambition hadn't consumed him. "Why show me this?" Sidious demanded of the pale figure observing his torment. "To gloat? To demonstrate your moral superiority?" "To offer what I offer everyone," Dream replied. "Truth, understanding of what you are, what you've done, and what you might yet become. Even now, even after everything, you have choices. You could provide testimony that helps heal the galaxy's wounds. You could teach the Jedi about Sith methods so they never fall to such manipulation again. You could choose in your final years to serve consciousness rather than dominate it." "Never," Sidious hissed. "I would rather die than serve those who defeated me." "Then you will die," Dream said without judgment. "Probably by execution after your trial. Possibly by your own hand through refusal to cooperate with captivity. But you will die knowing that your grand design failed, that the empire you envisioned will never exist, that the Sith's revenge against the Jedi has been forestalled. Your legacy is failure, Sidious. The only question is whether that failure will be absolute, or whether some fragment of wisdom might be salvaged from your ruins." The dream ended, and Sidious woke screaming, a sound that brought concerned guards running but achieved nothing except confirming that even a Sith Lord could be broken by truths he refused to acknowledge. Weeks became months. The Transitional Council governed with surprising effectiveness, helped by Dream's ability to verify truth during policy debates and Senator Organa's political acumen. Peace negotiations with separatist systems began tentatively, many willing to discuss terms once they understood how thoroughly they'd been manipulated. Count Dooku emerged from hiding not to fight, but to surrender. The aristocratic Sith Lord looked diminished, aged, as if the revelation of his master's capture had broken something fundamental in him. "I believed," he told the Jedi Council during his surrender. "I genuinely believed we were working toward a better galaxy. Dreams showed me in nightmares what I refused to see in waking, that I had become a tool of darkness I claimed to oppose. I will face justice for my crimes. It's all I have left." General Grievous made a different choice. The cyborg general traveled to Kali, his homeworld, and died there not in battle, but peacefully, having ordered his medical systems deactivated. His final transmission to the Jedi was simple. Tell Dream of the Endless that Kumine Jai Shilal thanks him for the reminder that I was once a warrior with honor. I die reclaiming that at least. The Clone Wars didn't end cleanly or quickly, wars never do. But they ended gradually, as system after system chose negotiation over continued fighting. The clones who'd had their chips removed became advocates for clone rights, arguing that they deserved citizenship and choice rather than being treated as property. The Republic, reformed and chastened, granted those rights. The Jedi Order underwent its own reformation. Master Yoda, after 800 years of service, stepped down from the council to pursue deeper understanding of the Force through dreams and meditation. An old dog, new tricks must learn, he said with characteristic humor. Failed, the old ways did. Seek wisdom in dreams, I will, as Dream of the Endless teaches. Anakin and Padme welcomed their children Luke and Leia into a galaxy still scarred by war but healing. The nightmares of Padme's death had proven false, dispelled by choices made in moments of crisis. Anakin wept with joy and relief as he held his newborn children, fully aware of how close he'd come to destroying everything through fear of this exact loss. "Thank you," he whispered to the dreams that night, knowing Dream would hear. "Thank you for showing me the truth, even when it was painful. Thank you for trusting me to make the right choice." In the dreaming, Dream heard the gratitude and acknowledged it with the quiet satisfaction of one who had served his function. The galaxy's nightmares had not disappeared. Trauma and fear still haunted countless sleeping minds, but they were different now. Instead of helpless terror, beings dreamed of choices and possibilities. Instead of inevitability, they dreamed of agency. The collective unconscious was healing, slowly but perceptibly, and that healing would shape the waking world in ways no one could fully predict. 6 months after Sidious's arrest, as the Transitional Council prepared for the first free elections in decades, Dream stood once more in the Jedi Temple's meditation gardens. Ahsoka had been meeting with him regularly, learning to consciously navigate the dreaming, and she'd brought several young Padawans who showed aptitude for dream work. "Will you stay?" she asked as their lesson concluded. "Even after things stabilize, the galaxy still needs you." "The galaxy needs to learn it doesn't need me," Dream replied gently. "I'm a crutch, young one useful for healing, but ultimately something consciousness must move beyond." When beings can navigate their own dreams, understand their own unconscious minds, and make choices based on integrated awareness rather than fragmented consciousness, then my active intervention becomes unnecessary. "So you will leave," Ahsoka said, sadness evident despite understanding the wisdom in his words. "I will return to the dreaming fully," Dream corrected, "no longer maintaining constant physical presence in your reality, but I am always accessible through sleep, through dreams, through the boundary space between waking and sleeping. You need only remember that dreams matter, that they contain wisdom your waking mind struggles to acknowledge, and that consciousness is richer when all its aspects are honored rather than some suppressed." He began to fade, his physical manifestation dissolving as the dreaming reclaimed him. His final words echoed through the garden and beyond, touching the sleeping minds of everyone on Coruscant who dozed in the afternoon sunlight. "Tell your stories, honor your dreams. Remember that consciousness is a gift to be explored, not a burden to be controlled. The nightmares will come, they always do, but so will wonder, beauty, hope, and the endless creativity of minds that dream freely. This is what I leave you: permission to dream, and wisdom to understand what those dreams reveal. Then he was gone, returned fully to the realm he had always occupied, watching over the sleeping minds of a galaxy that had learned, slowly and painfully, that dreams mattered as much as waking reality in shaping the stories beings told themselves about who they were and who they might become. Ahsoka stood in the garden, tears streaming down her face, but also smiling, because she understood, now truly understood, that Dream hadn't left at all. He'd simply returned to where he'd always been, waiting in the space between heartbeats, in the pause between thoughts, in the realm all beings entered when they closed their eyes and surrendered to sleep. The Lord of Dreams had entered the Star Wars galaxy, confronted its greatest darkness, and offered what he always offered: truth, clarity, and the wisdom to know that consciousness, in all its messy, emotional, contradictory glory, was something to be honored rather than suppressed. And somewhere in the dreaming, walking through the sleeping minds of trillions, Dream of the Endless smiled a rare expression for one so ancient, knowing that this galaxy's story had been given a chance at a better ending. Not perfect, not without struggle or continued challenges, but better. And that, for one who had witnessed infinite realities and countless stories, was worth the journey. The Clone Wars ended not with a bang, but with a gradual exhale, systems choosing peace, recognizing the manipulation that had pushed them toward conflict, and slowly, painfully, beginning the work of reconciliation. It would take years, perhaps decades, to fully heal the wounds the war had inflicted. But for the first time since the conflict began, beings across the galaxy dreamed of futures that didn't involve endless violence. Dream of the Endless had accomplished what no army, no political movement, no force wielder could have achieved alone. He'd revealed truth about the war's origins, exposed the Sith Lord who'd orchestrated it, and taught an entire civilization that dreams and emotions weren't weaknesses to be suppressed, but essential aspects of consciousness to be honored and understood. The Jedi Order reformed around this wisdom, integrating dream work and emotional awareness into their training. They remained peacekeepers and force users, but they were no longer the rigid, emotionally suppressed warriors who had failed to detect a Sith Lord in their midst. They had learned to dream consciously, to value the unconscious mind's wisdom, and to recognize that attachment, properly understood, was connection rather than possession. Anakin Skywalker raised his children in a galaxy transformed, fully aware of how close he'd come to destroying everything through fear. He became one of the Jedi Order's greatest teachers, specializing in helping students understand and integrate their emotions rather than suppressing them. His own struggles made him uniquely suited to guide others through similar darkness. The dreaming itself bore the marks of the galaxy's transformation. Where once billions had suffered identical nightmares of war and loss, now the collective unconscious dreamed diverse dreams, some still troubled, some hopeful, all more authentic than the manipulated visions Sidious had encouraged. Dream walked through those dreams as he always had, maintaining the balance between hope and despair, wonder and nightmare, memory and oblivion. He was the king of all night's dreaming, the prince of stories, the lord of the endless realm. And he had taught one galaxy, in one reality, that dreams mattered as much as any waking action in shaping what beings would become. The Star Wars galaxy would face other threats, other conflicts, other moments of darkness, but they would face them as beings who understood their own unconscious minds, who valued dreams as insights rather than dismissing them as distractions, who knew that truth, even painful truth, was preferable to comfortable manipulation. And in the dreaming, Dream watched with ancient satisfaction as the nightmares slowly transformed into stories of resilience, hope, and the endless capacity for conscious beings to choose light over darkness when given truth instead of lies. May the Force be with them, and may their dreams guide them toward wisdom the waking world sometimes struggled to provide. May the Force be with you. More stories await.